so that we don't pile up everything on one question, because he'll be here for quite some time. So if you don't get a chance during the first question, just wait. I'll give you a chance during the other questions that you'll be answering. Louis at the corner, I was trying to see whether he is alive. Okay, Waziri. So, Honorable Senators, the CS is here, and the CS, I want to really welcome you to the Senate. I know you have really been appearing severally to answer questions of the Honorable Senators. And I can see you have quite a bit to respond to. So we'll do as much as we can so that we clear with these questions. So I want the Senator George Bugwa, kindly ask your first question, question number 021.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Karibu CS. I stand here to ask question number 21. What are the reasons for the delay in reviewing the Basic Education Act 2013 to align it with the Constitution and the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities to address the right to inclusive education for learners with disabilities and special needs? And B, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a status report on the operationalization of the national and county education boards as stipulated in the Act? C, what specific policy guidelines are in place to ensure the implementation of the home-based education program as stipulated in the Sector Policy for Learners and Trainees with Disabilities 2018? And could the Cabinet Secretary state the number of beneficiaries, teachers involved in the program, as well as the amount of funds utilized from 2020 to date? Thank you. And D, could the Cabinet Secretary provide the reasons for non-implementation of the policy and state the measures in place to ensure the full implementation of the policy during the 2023-2024 financial year? Thank you.
Okay, CS, respond to question 021.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Question number 21. Mr. Speaker, the objective of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities is to promote, protect, and ensure the full and equal enjoyment of all human rights and the fundamental freedoms by all persons with disabilities, and to promote respect for their inherent dignity. Kenya ratified the Convention on the 19th May 2008, and therefore Kenya is under obligation to respect, protect, and fulfill the provisions in the Convention. Article 2(6) of the Constitution provides that any treaty or convention ratified by Kenya shall be part of the law of Kenya. In this regard, the Convention is also part of the laws of Kenya. Article 24 of the Convention requires state parties to recognize the right of persons with disabilities to education. Mr. Speaker, sir, Article 53(1) of the Constitution recognizes the right of every child to free and compulsory basic education. Article 54(1)(b) is specific that a person with any disability is entitled to access educational institutions and facilities for persons with disabilities that are integrated into society to the extent compatible with the interests of the person. These provisions are also captured in the Basic Education Act 2013, right to free and compulsory education. The Act also provides for the establishment of a special and integrated schools for learners with disability. Mr. Speaker, sir, the current legal framework, including the Basic Education Act 2013, is generally aligned to these requirements of the Convention and the Constitution. To further implement the provisions of the Convention and the Constitution, the Ministry adopted sector policy for learners and trainees with disabilities as given in 2018 to guide the implementation of special needs education in the country. The policy replaced the Special Needs Education Policy 2009 with particular focus being to align with the convention, the constitution, and the Basic Education Act 2013. It is also better to note that this particular item is also captured clearly in the document which has been handed over to His Excellency the President, and that is from the Presidential Working Party, of which we have an implementation matrix, and the Ministry is actually in the process of implementing the various recommendations within the 1-year period given. And I'm sure that there are a number of provisions that we will be able to implement accordingly as recommended in the Presidential Working Party report. The part B of the question is the operationalization of the national and the county education boards as stipulated in the Act. Mr. Speaker, Section 21 of the Basic Education Act 2013 gives the Cabinet Secretary the power to appoint county education board chairpersons and members. The Ministry has appointed all the members of the county education boards in all our 47 counties. This was done in February last year, 2022, and the tenure of these members is supposed to be 3 years. The only people that we have not been able to appoint, we did the advert and the interviews were done, are the chairpersons of the county education boards. If you take note also, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Speaker, we have a recommendation from the Presidential Working Party, and we have been able to send a recommendation to the National Assembly on the same, that indeed it's better for us to have the county commissioners as chairpersons of county education boards. So we have the recommendation, but at the same time, we have sent a miscellaneous amendment to Parliament. If it can be able to fast track that particular amendment, then the county commissioners will be the ones to chair the county education boards, as opposed to the way the situation is now. But because we already have quorum, each and every time that the county education boards want to have a meeting, they identify one of them to chair the meetings where we are trying to reconcile this. So question C, Mr. Speaker, sir, is that the sector policy for runners and trainees with disabilities 2018 is the current policy framework for the implementation of the home-based education. The policy recognizes home-based education from two perspectives. Firstly, it recognizes the need to start the education of children with disabilities from the onset of a disability with a home setting rather than when they enroll in school. This makes it easier for them to transition to school without being disadvantaged by their disability. Secondly, home-based education is a learning and a teaching approach for runners with severe disabilities who are unable to attend an educational institution because of their disability. The policy requires the means of education to enhance equal access, retention, progression, and transition of all runners and the trainees with disabilities at all levels of education and training. In terms of the implementation strategy, the Ministry is required to provide teaching and learning resources in accessible formats, qualified teaching and support staff for home-based and institution-based runners and trainees with disabilities. The Teacher Service Commission is also required to provide teachers to support the home-based programs. Mr. Speaker, home-based runners with disabilities are still enrolled in specific institutions. At present, the Ministry does not have separate data for those who run from home and those who are based in institutions. The available data is aggregated. However, This particular financial year, Mr. Speaker, I want to undertake that we are actually in the process of getting the necessary required data, because we have to have the data of those who are at home and those who are in educational institutions. And for this purpose, the State Department of Basic has been allocated 14 million, which we are using for this particular exercise, so that we can be able to have proper information on the same. Mr. Speaker, in terms of teachers, there are 5,687 teachers deployed to special needs education institutions. The numbers on enrollment and fundings in the year 2020 are indicated in the table provided for, and is quite detailed, Honorable Speaker, and I hope the honorable members have the copy of the table as outlined, indicating specifically the year and the amount dispersed thereof. So I don't require to go into specific figures. Question number D is that yes, indeed, this particular year, 2023-2024, we undertake that this particular policy which is in place as a ministry, and we are undertaking implementation, and as I've said, we have a allocation of 14 million for this particular purpose, and our county directors of education have been instructed by the sub-county directors to start gathering the information, and it is on the basis of that information that we will be able to make the necessary required policy initiatives and interventions where they are required, Honorable Speaker, sir. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, CS. Honorable CS, sorry. Because you know you have the title Honorable, as you served in the National Assembly last Parliament. So the move of this question, Senator John Chibugo, do you have a supplementary question? You have a privilege to ask 2 supplementary questions, either simultaneously or one, and then you can do the last bit. Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I would give the chance to my colleague senator, then I will ask later.
Senator Mungatana Dansod Buya, Senator for Tana River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I want to, first of all, acknowledge the Honorable Machogu, because the kind of work he's doing, and he's been up and about, we congratulate you for the work you are doing. With respect to this question, Mr. Speaker, the Kenya Institute of Special Education, KISE, carried out a survey of students who have learning disabilities. And Mr. Speaker, that survey reveals that 11.4% of students in Kenya have learning disabilities, which, Mr. Speaker, is lower than the prevalence, global prevalence, which is at 16%. Mr. Speaker, the question I wanted to pose to the minister is whether the allocations and the budgetary allocations for special education reflects this reality, Mr. Speaker. Has the minister allocated sufficient funds for special education, especially for those who have very severe difficulties that they cannot access school, so they have to be home-based? Has the minister allocated sufficient funds Mr. Speaker, I ask this because just last week, we were talking about mental health in this very Senate, Mr. Speaker, and the negligence that the Ministry of Education, Health has shown towards those living with mental disabilities. And Mr. Speaker, a number of hospitals here were mentioned as neglected. Now, we are coming to education. We want to know, has the minister, with these realities of statistics, been able to allocate sufficient funds? And Mr. Speaker, as he explains this, I want him to specifically tell us what the Ministry for Education is doing for those people with disabilities in Tana River County. Mr. Speaker, we have not been feeling them, we have not been seeing them, and there are many students, Mr. Speaker, who are not able to go to school, and life is difficult there, Mr. Speaker. I want to hear what the minister has to say about this.
You know you have
I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
5 supplementary questions.
It's just one question, Mr.
Only
Speaker.
one.
Yes, just one question,
5,
Mr.
so
Speaker.
you'll choose which one to answer because he cannot.
Mr. Speaker, I was giving the background so that the minister can go with me, and you
So
can
the rest
see.
of the senators, kindly be specific to your question. Don't give any background information. Specific to your supplementary question. CS.
Yeah, thank you, the honorable member from Tana River. I take note of the question, Honorable Speaker. The survey done by Kise indicating a figure of 11%, and that's why I said also that actually we are doing a survey this particular year which will be able to give us the very accurate figures which we seem to have, but we want really accurate figures to come up with, and that's why we have tasked the county directors of education and the deputy county directors to undertake the same, and I hope with the little resources given to us this year, the 14 million should be able to undertake that particular assignment. Home-based care, I must admit, Honorable Speaker, that yes, we have not really been very effective in this particular area, and that is an area that we want to move into moving forward, because what we have done well is those educational institutions based, such that the disabilities, the number of cases, we admit them in these institutions, but we are supposed to go further than that, and as the policy says, we cater for those home-based, and that is why we are carrying out that particular survey. Allocation funding, yes, you know, out of the capitation that we give, if it is in junior secondary, the 15,040 is for a normal child, but for disability we give more. For senior secondary, when we give the normal 22,240, for disability we give per student between 35 and 37 because of the special needs that they require. We don't have specific figures as of now for Tana River, but as the rest of the country, I undertake that we will be able to take the necessary measures, because one other area which is also properly captured in the Prudential Working Party report, members, if you can be able to read this report, is on special needs children, where government is saying we have to put a lot of emphasis on this, and we have to give more allocation on this going forward.
Yeah, thank you. Next is Senator Modigi Alexander. Senator Modigi, do you have a supplementary question? Yes.
Yangu ni swali ya kawaida, Bwana Spika.
Supplementary question. Hakuna swali ya kawaida na swali ile ya siku nyingine.
Bwana Spika, yangu nashukuru waziri wa elimu kwa ile kazi anaendelea kufanya katika Kenya kwa majimbo 47. Tunakusapoti. Yangu swali ni walimu ambaye wanjiwezi na wale wengine wanajiweza, wakati wanafika miaka 60 kunakuwa na shinda wakati wa malipo. Wote unakuta wakimaliza mambo yao. Tumeona makampuni nyingi inafanya vile inawalipa pesa zao za uzeeni ikiwa imemaliza miezi 3. Lakini upande wa elimu unakuta wanakaa kama miaka 2 au mwaka mmoja bila kulipwa pesa. Tunakuomba tu uwe ukiungana na Wizara ya Fedha, tuone ndio tuweze kuinua uchumi wa Kenya na kuwasaidia waweze kulipwa kama hawajakuwa na shinda, kwa sababu wanakaa mwaka mmoja miaka 2 mpaka inapandilika, wanakuwa ni kama disability. Hata hawa wengine wanakufa, wengine hakuna kitu wanafanya. Mtu alikuwa apata pesa, unakuta kuna shinda. Utasaidia namna gani wakati huu? Kwa sababu tunajua serikali ya Kenya Kwanza inafanya kazi nzuri na wao wanafanya kazi nzuri. Asante Bwana Waziri.
Okay, thank you. Honorable CS, respond to that other question.
Asante sana. Ni kweli vile Mheshimiwa wa Embu amesema ya kwamba wale ambao wanastaafu ni muhimu waweze kulipwa malipo yao kwa wakati ambaye inafaa. Unajua kuna utaratibu ambaye inafuatwa, kwa sababu mtu akistaafu kama ni mwalimu au ni ofisa wa serikali kutoka idara au wizara fulani, lazima faili yake iangaliwe. Kutoka hapo iweze kutuma katika National Treasury kwa idara ya pensions. Ikishatumwa huko, malipo wakati huu si kama wakati wa zamani, haikaangi sana. Na hata kwa walimu wetu tumeweza kueleza Teacher Service Commission, wakati mtu anastaafu faili yake inatumwa haraka iwezekanavyo kwa pensions, ndio malipo sasa inaweza kushughulikiwa. Kwa sababu kusema kweli, kama mtu alikuwa anapata mshahara alafu akae mwaka mmoja miaka 2 bila kupata, hiyo itaweza leta madhara ngine. Lakini ningetaka kuhakikishia Mheshimiwa ya kwamba kama iko kesi yoyote ambaye pengine mmeweza kukaa mwaka, kwa sababu tunasitisha kwamba pengine ikienda miezi 4 miezi 5 mtu ameweza kulipwa, alafu kutoka hapa na weko kwa orodha, anapokea ile ya kila mwezi. Lakini kama iko kesi kama hiyo, tafadhali unafikisha kwangu, alafu kutoka hapa tutaweza kuishughulikia kikamilifu. Asante.
Asante sana waziri kwa hilo jibu. Next is Senator Professor Margaret Kamal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and I congratulate the Minister alongside what my colleagues have said. He's running a ministry that is massive, ably. I just wanted to ask the Minister, what informed the change to return the chairing of the Education Board to the county commissioners? We know currently it was chaired by an eminent educationist from the county, which meant that they were able to, the education committee is independent of everything else and they concentrate on education. We know registrations of schools have not been completed and it is something continuous. We know that there are schools that do not even have title deeds. It is their agenda. We know there are issues of indiscipline and discipline that need to be dealt with. If it is given to the county commissioner, how can we be assured that they will have enough time for this? Because some county commissioners are faced with insecurity issues, food insecurity also, poverty issues. There are so many issues that they're dealing with. What really informed, and did the commission, the committee that was dealing with reforms, touch on this matter also? Thank you.
Okay, Honorable CS.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. One, what informed this was that the Presidential Working Party went around the 47 counties. It engaged experts, it engaged stakeholders in various areas on their terms of reference, and one of them was on some of these areas, cross-cutting issues. And in that particular engagement, Kenyans came with a report. Actually, this was not just a mere public participation as such. I think it was a people-driven process, Honorable Speaker, where Kenyans were freely giving their views. And if I can also say on this, is that government, the main coordinating body is the county commissioners at the level of the county, such that overall they are supposed to not only to oversee and to coordinate, but to be part and parcel of whatever government initiatives and government process at that particular level. Indeed, I was such when I served as district commissioner. We had what we used to call district education boards, and during that particular time when we had district education boards, the district commissioner was then the chairman of the district education board. The experience we have had for the last few years, I think, has pointed out to quite a number of problems that we encounter in our school management when you just have the county commissioner as a member of such a key committee, because, you know, we are saying of human capital, developing it at that very young stage. And the kind of problems, the kind of issues, the kind of people that that the education board is supposed to deal with, because the education board is also supposed to relate with the county director of education, is supposed to relate with the county education officer from Teacher Service Commission. So when you find somebody who does not have some kind of authority placed in a government office, there are certain recommendations which are recommended by the county education board. You find they are not easily implemented. Sometimes we have had problems, like registering of schools, which we find if the county commissioner was the chair of that particular team, it will be easier for him now to direct certain other steps to be taken, as unlike when you have somebody from outside having to serve as chairperson of that very important committee. And I think this is what informed that particular decision, which is properly captured in the Prudential Working Party report. And of course, this will require an amendment in Parliament, and it is not final until it is approved by members of Parliament, which I said we are forwarding as a miscellaneous amendment for Parliament to consider.
Thank you, Honorable CS. As I give you some guidance when we were starting, I can see quite a number of members want to ask their supplementary questions now on this question. Because we have several questions on the same ministry, I'll be giving you, you can still ask about the disability later on, but to manage time, I would be distributing members on different questions so that we can really make progress. We might stuck here for more than 2 hours on the first question. So I want to now request Senator Bugwa. Can you now ask your supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bwana CS, currently the special need education top-up is given to learners with disability who are enrolled in special schools. The ones who are in regular schools are not benefiting from this top-up. Yet the Ministry Sector Policy 2018 is to try as much as possible to enroll them in the regular schools. Why is this discrimination happening, and what are you doing to address it? Thank you.
CS, Honorable.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. As the Honorable Member says, it is true that the top-up is actually given to those schools which are specifically for that category, and those in the regular schools have not been benefiting. And we say, depending on the nature of disability, of course, we also want to integrate these children as much as possible along with the others. We are capturing this information, as I said, and based on the information that we will be able to get in this, it will inform our decisions going forward, such that we are able to know the number of those with disability in the normal regular schools, such that when we are forwarding capitation, it is done taking that into consideration, because the information sometimes we have in NEMIS does not really tell you specifically that this one is suffering from this kind of disability, and that's why we have found it necessary to undertake the kind of survey that we are undertaking, which will now be able to rectify some of these anomalies.
Thank you for that comprehensive response. So, Honorable Senator, as I request we go to the next question, number 027. And on this question, the member who asked the question is Senator Joyce Korir, and I'm well briefed that she has delegated. There is a responsibility to ask the question to the Senator from Bomet, Senator Wakili Sigei. Senator Wakili Sigei, proceed and ask the question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Before I ask the question 027 to the CS, I would like to, first of all, appreciate him for honoring this appearance today. This question was deferred, I think, in the last 2 sessions, owing to circumstances which were beyond our control. And secondly, to appreciate him for the work that he's doing in the ministry. And in particular, Mr. Speaker, I would like to appreciate the CS for the support he gave to my school last Friday, where he was the chief guest in a prize giving day. The school is called Tenwek High School. I'm an alumni of that school. And this, Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the Honorable Senator for Nyamira asked the committee relevant to what I know the CS will be expected at some point to respond as to the infrastructure allocation to national schools, the policy and the justification across such infrastructure allocation. From my end, I am already a beneficiary of that.
Senator Sigei, are you asking a supplementary question?
I am not asking. I'm setting the foundation for my question to the Cabinet Secretary.
No,
and that was my
the questions.
Mr. Speaker, I will ask the question.
And then during your supplementary question, you can now be able, I'll give you that opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah,
the question is in 3 limbs. I'll start with question 27A and thereafter B and C. The question goes to the CS, is expected to respond to why has project WP item number D106 RV/BMT/1502 job number 1011117A for the construction of a library block, hostels, a multipurpose hall, and lecture halls at Bomet University stalled in almost 1 year. That is question 1A. Mr. Speaker, question B. What are the measures is he taking, as the CS of the government is taking, to ensure the completion of the said project? And C, could the Cabinet Secretary provide an update on the findings of the task force that was established to address the issue of tarmacking of the grounds adjacent to the library block, the hostel, the multipurpose hall, and lecture halls at the institution? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
before Honorable CS you respond, I want to confirm that whether through my colleagues who are supporting Azia, whether the response is circulated to all the members. Because the CS has really a comprehensive response to all the questions. So if these responses are with the members, I want us to still save more time by the CS not reading everything verbatim, which is in this almost 20-page report response. So if the members have these responses, then Honorable CS, I will ask you not to go verbatim on every one and comma and full stop, and just summarize your answers so that we can be able to create more time. So I'm encouraging members to read. The culture of reading should be really be implemented in this house, and members to be encouraged to read reports so that also we don't take a lot of time reading through the sentences and paragraphs verbatim. Proceed, Honorable CS. There is nothing out of order. No clarification whatsoever. Proceed, Honorable CS.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I will try to do exactly that. One, to say that the Bomet University project consists of the following works: an academic block, tuition block, one multi-purpose hall, one library block, two hostel blocks, and the civil works around the buildings. The project was started way back when a contract was given in November 2016, and the contract was between then Moi University and Mr. Smith and the Gold Production Limited, who was identified as the contractor. The contract sum was 1,391,982,486, and the Moi University was listed as the employer because Bomet University was a college of Moi University. Upon the resettlement of Bomet University as a constituent college way back in July 2017, the project was handed over to Bomet University College on 29th March 2018. The initial contract period was supposed to be for 104 weeks, with the completion date set for 17 November 2018. A number of subcontractors were engaged to handle various aspects of the project, and the subcontractors, I don't have to go through them. They are almost 10, and all of them are listed in the report, and the works that they are supposed to have undertaken in specific areas. The project has not been completed, and there have been 3 extensions of the contract, Honorable Speaker. The first extended the contract by 52 weeks, which was supposed to end in 2019. The second extension was also done for the project to end in 2020, and the other final extension done on 2nd August. The project was supposed to end on 2nd August 2021. The main contractor, Honorable Speaker, abandoned the site, but the subcontractors in May 2021 without providing adequate reasons. And therefore, he left work undone, and the overall completion of the project is about 52%. The tuition block is at 95% complete. The library block is at 70% complete. The multi-purpose hall is at 90% complete. The hostels are at only 5%, while the civil works are at 10%. Mr. Speaker, 33 interim payment certificates have been issued, and out of which 32 have so far been honored. The amount certified and so far paid is 772,945,748, while the amount actually paid is 754,450,117, and there's one certificate which was not therefore paid. After the contractor abandoned the site, the project manager issued a default notice to the contractor on the 29th September 2021, and the copy is enclosed therein. And there has been no response from the contractor ever since then. And he has just absented himself from the site. Therefore, that is the way the situation is, and the measures the government is taking to ensure the completion of the project. Honorable Speaker, we did start quite a number of projects in almost each and every public university in the country, and we were giving them small amounts of money which would not be able to see the project through. And apart from POMET, we also have incomplete projects almost in each and every university. And what we are doing is that this particular year we have been given very little money for this university, because if you go to the initial contract, the amount that has not been paid is 532 million, if we were to go by that. But you know, given that the contractor has absconded, probably another new contractor has to be engaged. The figure is likely to change in order to be able to complete this project, and we will start probably with the one which is 95% done, and the amount given to us in the allocation of this year for this university is only 40 million. So you can see that we will try to put our case in supplementary one, and if we get funds in supplementary one, then we should be able to progressively complete that project, starting with like the project which is 95% complete, coming down up to the one which is 5% done, so that we are able to complete the project and have it for use. C, I want to make it clear, Honorable Speaker, that there has been actually no task force established for the civil works, tarmacking of the grounds, recharging the library prog, the hostel, the multi-purpose hall, and the lecture halls, as arranged here. What I want to say is that the civil works are actually a part of the contract. They are part of the contract, but so far, as indicated in the report, they have not been done. So as we undertake the project going in the future, this is one of the areas which was identified as a priority which has to be done. I so submit.
Thank you, Honorable CS. Let's get the supplementary questions from the move of the question. Senator Wakiri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I ask any supplementary question, if there is any one of my colleagues who would, I would ask the go first, then I close. I've got only one supplementary question to the CS.
Okay, very well. Let's get from the majority whip, Dr. Boni Karwale, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm taking advantage of your guidance that we can swing back to the original question. Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank the Minister for the administrative restructuring and infrastructure support that you are giving to Kakamega County. We thank you. My question is, some of the children living with disability of the past years have moved on and themselves become qualified teachers. Could you confirm if in the ministry you have an affirmative program during recruitment of teachers so that this kind of qualified teachers who themselves have disabilities get supported for recruitment? And if you have, how many such teachers today do we have in the country? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS.
Yeah, thank you very much. I cannot be able to give the numbers here, but given the time, I can be able to give you specific numbers. But as any employment in the public sector, I think we have some kind of affirmative action to those people who are physically challenged with disabilities of one kind or the other. And I'm sure this is one area that Teacher Service Commission should also be doing. So given time, I can be able to give specific numbers of teachers who have been employed.
Of course, Dr. Boni Karware, you don't expect the CS to have the statistics of any issue that we are raising, but as he has guided, with the time we can be able to provide to you the statistics. Next is Senator William Cheptumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also wish to thank the CS. Mr. Speaker, I think he's one of the CSs that we cherish the work he's doing. We served with him in the other house in the last parliament. And I think members who served in this house they make better CSs than Mr. Speaker. Baringo County has 6 constituencies. And in those constituencies, 5 constituencies, teachers receive hardship allowances, except Eldama Ravine constituency, Mr. Speaker. And even the neighboring constituencies, whether from Kericho County, or from Wasingishu County, or from Baringo County, enjoying the same climatic conditions, receive hardship allowances. I want to ask the minister if he's aware that Eldama Ravine has been discriminated upon. Teachers teaching in that constituency have been, Mr. Speaker, for several years, have not been receiving hardship allowances. Are you aware, Bwana CS, that situation? It is in complete contravention of Article 27 of the Constitution, where there is equity for all Kenyans being protected by the law. It is important, Mr. Speaker, that that is done. So, Bwana CS, are you aware? And if you are aware, what is the foundation of that particular policy, which in my view is quite discriminative against the teachers of Eldama Ravine constituency? And shortly I will be filing a petition, but I just want to set the stage for you to answer that question today, Bwana CS.
Honorable CS.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. This, as I have moved around the country, I've been able to encounter these questions in many places I go. There is a place in Ndarawa, which is neighboring Laikipia. The last time I was there, last month, the teachers, same climatic conditions, same kind of hardship. You find a school which is probably 1 kilometer apart. These ones are getting, and these others are not getting, making it necessary for people to apply for transfer in order to get that additional income. Now, the criteria for classifying an area as a hardship, I think is clearly given out and clearly understood. Honorable Speaker, I think some years ago, there were certain other factors which must have been considered, apart from the really factors which are supposed to make it necessary for an area to qualify as either being a hardship or not hardship. Because again, if we crush for every area in this country as a hardship, then you know even the amount of money you are giving us in the education sector, if it goes beyond 30% of the total budget, and there are other sectors of the economy, then really I don't know whether we can be able to manage that. Honorable Speaker, I know there's an exercise going on trying to streamline and consider areas which were left behind that are supposed to be considered. Redamarafin had not come to my attention because what we also normally do, there's a ministry which is responsible for that. I think Ministry of Public Service and also internal security. Ours we recommend, and then once they undertake that process and have the area classified as a hardship, then ours is to pass over the information for implementation. So, Mheshimiwa, from Baringo County, I would only say that if the press out of the 6 constituencies, this one is not benefiting for one, this one not the other, then you can be able to submit the information, and then we will also submit it to the relevant ministry so that it can be able to be subjected to the necessary process. If it qualifies, then as a ministry and even Teacher Service Commission will be instructed to effect as would have been recommended from the necessary channels as given in the law.
Honorable says, did you give him the specific state department that did use with those issues?
Yes, public service and internal security are the people, even when we get like the case of Nyandarua, which I also forward when I was somewhere in Nyatike, in Migori County. I also did encounter the same kind of program. So, Honorable Speaker, I say that the Honorable Member can be able to give the facts so that we are able to submit the same to the relevant ministry.
I was actually intentionally asking that question to help my senior colleague so that in on petition to the Education Ministry, because that is an issue really touching on many counties. And that question has come severally to the floor of this Senate. Let's get the last one on this question from Senator Fatuma Nduro.
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to ask on PWDs. I don't know.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and CS for your presentation. Now, Mr. Speaker, there is so much challenges on the ground, especially for people living with disabilities at an early stage. At the ECD level, we don't have a structured way of dealing with PWD students. My question is the ministry planning to do anything at that grassroots level, at the foundation level, where the PWDs can get proper foundation to go to primary school? Number 2, placement of special teachers is a big problem in this country, because special students require special teachers who are trained in that particular field. There is a problem in placement of the teachers, and number 2, promotion of the same teachers. Does TSC and the ministry have separate plan from the normal students for PWDs? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. As members are aware, ECD is the responsibility and the reserve of the county governments, but we work very closely in collaboration. We have a committee which comprises my ministry and the chair of Governors Council, the governor of Kericho County, Governor Mutai, and one of the areas that we discuss are some of these issues. Actually, we are developing some kind of policy so that there can be uniformity in matters ECD, because what we find, Honorable Speaker, is that each county does its own thing, even the payment of ECD teachers. That lack of standardization, lack of uniformity causes quite a bit of problems, and this is a very critical stage, as the Honorable Member says, foundational running, because if we also lack in this, then even when they transition to grade 1, then there will be a missing link. And because we are encouraging 100% transition, if we leave out the people with disability at this particular stage, then we will also not be able to succeed in the policy of 100% transition. And I think the kind of survey we are doing in this and the meeting we are having between us and the Council of Governors, we will be able to tackle and sort out some of these issues.
Okay, Senator Sigay, ask you a supplementary question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, CS, for the responses that you have shared with us this morning, particularly on the measures that the government is currently taking to ensure that there is completion of such projects. Honorable CS, I listened to you, I've gone through the response you gave us, and I'm a bit worried that you have not been given what they would call the actual situation on the ground on this particular project. You are aware we have had issues with the institution, particularly with administration and the management. In this regard, CS, your responses at paragraph 22, 23, and 26, these are where I would want to ask supplementary questions. Under paragraph 22, your response, which I believe the officers who gave you these responses intentionally did so that they serve the intention they desired. This particular contract was extended 4 times: 7th of November 2018, 7th of November 2019, 7th of November 2020, and 2nd of August 2021, and that the contractor abandoned site in May 2021. That was within the contract extension period. I have made an attempt to reach out to the contractor. In response to that paragraph 22 and 23, one, the contractor indicated that on the 22nd of October 2018, there was official handover of one part of the project, one academic block, that is in bracket tuition block, which is made reference to in paragraph 17A. This is actually, it was an official state function where the then President, Uhuru Kenyatta, presided over. That is when a handover ceremony was done, a handing over certificate was prepared and presented and issued, a certificate of completion was made available, and the first moiety was thereafter paid of 5 million to the contractor. That is with regards to the tuition block. The response here is that the tuition block is 95% complete. It could not have been possible for all this to be done, including a state function to be done, if that position was true. Secondly, under paragraph 22, where you have said that the contractor abandoned site, he indicates that there was already occupation of the site by the administration. And technically, therefore, he could not be working on a site that has already been occupied as at May 2021. If it was therefore incomplete, as it's been alleged in the response at paragraph 23, which of course is the true position with regards to the other items, that is the multipurpose hall, library block, hostels, and the civil works around the buildings, it could not have attracted a state function that it did. The only thing that paragraph 22 responds well is with regards to the non-payment to the contractors leading to their abandonment of site. And this is not towards the ministry. This is with regards to the administration at the institution. And CS, I'm sure you are aware about that. We have had a conversation about this. Are you aware that there is already another contractor who's been contracted by the current administration to undertake that which your officers have responded to you at paragraph 28? Because you are saying you are undertaking options to procure another contractor, yet there is already another contractor who has been on site for a couple of months now. And lastly, under paragraph 26, you have responded that there has been in the 21st regular meeting of the University Council in May 2023, there was an invitation to the project manager who gave reports as you have highlighted there. The contractor says he has never failed to appear on any invitation by the council. Instead, he's been kept away because there is already another contractor who is on site. Contrary to the law, contrary to what the ministry would have expected the administration of the institution to undertake. What would be your responses, Honorable CS, to those particular concerns? And in particular with regards to the element of interference with the contractor, occupation, and the official handover of the tuition block where the president then indeed presided over the event.
Senator Sige, you know you are prosecuting the way you do best in the courts of law. This is the Senate, not the court of law, you know. The way you are, no, you are okay. I was just, this is just by the way that you are really practicing the court procedures. So several issues have been raised, but maybe Waziri respond to his supplementary question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and the Honorable Member from Bomet. One, in case there was a state function, which I don't deny, you know, completion of a project entails many things, Honorable Speaker, because it might be that including furniture and other things which were supposed to be done in that particular tuition block might and was not done when that particular visual opening of the building was concerned, was done. So we cannot be able to give it 100%, and that is why actually we gave it 95%, because you know sometimes, Honorable Speaker, you know, probably the head of state might have been in that particular area, and they might have said which particular project do we open at this particular time, which is nearing completion. And Bomet University must have been such one project which was formally and officially opened, but there are certain other things which I said 5%, which had not been done. This report, Honorable Speaker, was done in June to Parliament when I was supposed to appear here. If there is anything that has happened within the university, and it will be regular, really for them to engage another procurement process, another contractor, without such information also coming to the ministry, because it is us, the ministry, which is giving the money. And we have said we require things to be done in a proper manner, meaning that we don't want to give a contract unless and until we are sure that we have adequate funds to undertake the same. So what the honorable member said, I will have to check with Bomet University to make sure if indeed there is any such contract which has been issued, and what nature of contract, does it involve the components that were supposed to be done under the original contract. I have not done what he has done, engaging the contractor, because there are official channels of engagement such that the project manager must be able to put it in writing to the contractor in order for the contractor to appear or not. Informally, as PS, I cannot really call the contractor direct. So the information I got from the project manager was confirming that yes, they have tried, and the contractor, for one reason or another, has not been able to appear, and hence the decision taken the way they have taken it. I don't deny, because as I said, there are 3 extensions which have been done. In case there is a 4th one that was done, it was not brought to my notice, but overall, I think it captures the spirit and the answer that there have been extensions of the contractor, but again, due to one reason or another, completion has not been able to be done. And actually, what we are also doing in the process is that, yes, the 754 million which has been paid, vis-a-vis comparing the amount of work which has been done, because the amount which was remaining was about 532 million. Is it that the government gave more than what it should have given? Is it that the government gave less than what it should have given? That is one other area that we are also trying to establish, so that we know whether we give more to the contractor as he has absconded. But it's an issue which Honorable Speaker undertake to work on, even with the funds that we'll be able to provide to that particular university, to know what exactly we can be able to do with the fund this year and moving on until we are able to complete the project. As the honorable member says, Honorable Speaker, I know there are other issues which we have had discussions separately with the honorable member and other stakeholders, but at other times, honorable members, you know that our hands are also tied, because once you have given a contract to an individual to terminate it, it's another process, because if you go terminating the contract, then you know Kenyans how they are. The matter goes to court, and it becomes quite a headache. So there are other issues we are engaging, which I think they are not part of this question. And therefore, we will do our best. And I will also check in case there's a new contractor, because the others have said has to be brought to my notice, has to be brought to the ministry, and if there's anything like that to happen, there must be concurrence from the ministry. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable CS. The move of the question, as I think you are somehow satisfied that there are some issues that still can be, the CS will be able to respond after contacting the institution.
In the context of the questions which were before the CS, I will take the responses is given, but as I have indicated, there is less that has been shared to the CS than what is actually happening, and we will deal with that on a separate engagement, as he's rightly put. I want to appreciate the CS for also taking your time and appearing. Earlier on, I had wanted to appreciate the CS, Honorable Speaker, and you told me that was amounting to a supplementary question. In my capacity as an old boy of that particular school, I wanted to appreciate the CS for giving us the support that he gave us on that last Friday. We truly appreciate, and that I know is an effort that it took your office to make sure that Tenwek High School as a national institution also gets, in terms of infrastructure, to the status of other institutions. We will support your ministry as also stakeholders in that institution, even as we push ourselves to support this other institution, particularly the one that has brought us here this morning, to also ensure that there is some semblance of appropriate utilization of public resources for the benefit of us Kenyans and the locals who are also looking up to your ministry to do that which it can do within the law to support such institutions. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and once again, thank you, CS.
Thank you. Now let's move to the next question. Question 034 by Senator Pelis Tobiko. CBS.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. Could the Cabinet Secretary state the purpose of the Grade 6 Kenya Primary School Education Assessment, providing a per county breakdown of learners in both public and private schools that sat for the assessment in the 2022 academic year, and indicate how many of them transited to junior secondary schools? B, Mr. Speaker, to the Cabinet Secretary, what criteria did the ministry apply in the placement of learners in junior secondary schools? And when will the learners in grade 7 transition to the existing secondary schools? C, what is the status of implementation of the competency-based curriculum CBC, particularly in junior secondary schools, in view of the concerns that minimal or no learning is taking place? And D, to what extent has the ministry availed resources to facilitate proper learning in junior secondary schools? And could the Cabinet Secretary provide per county details of the implementation of CBC, including capitation for learners in the schools, distribution of learning materials, teacher to learner ratio, as well as infrastructure put up so far? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable CS, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It's a very elaborate question, and I would like to start by saying that the summative Kenya Primary School Education Assessment is administered at the hand of Upper Primary. For the 2022 year, the assessment was administered from the 28th to 30th November, and the assessment sought to establish the levels of achievement among grade 6 learners in English language, mathematics, Kiswahili, Kenya Sign Language, integrated science, creative arts, and social studies. It was administered through written tests that had multiple choice tasks. The purpose of KIPSEA is to establish the level of master of competencies among learners in the various learning areas. This is in line with the recommendations of the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform. In its first progress report to His Excellency on 1st December 2022, the Presidential Working Party recommended that KIPSEA should be a continuous assessment for monitoring learners' progress and achievement, and not for purposes of placement of learners to grade 7. Indeed, we have been able to give, as indicated in the report, the specific objectives of KIPSEA, which is listed from A, B, C, D, E, F, up to H, and I don't require to go into each and every specific areas listed as what the purpose of this is, Honorable Speaker. The assessment was guided by the competence-based assessment framework for the age-based pathways, which recommends an assessment at every end of upper primary. It is important to note that the summative assessment was preceded by a school-based assessment which started at grade 4. The school-based assessment comprises classroom assessments conducted by teachers. The teachers are guided in the curriculum designs on the activities to carry out to assess runner progress and to develop appropriate remedial action. Mr. Speaker, sir, this was reinforced by the class assessment by providing Kenya National Examination Council provides standardized tools for this assessment at grade 4, 5, and 6 in all running areas offered in upper primary. They are given opportunity to work out as individually in groups and with the support of resource persons, even parents and the teachers. The assessment tools include written tests, projects, practical performance tasks, observation checklists, oral and portfolio assessments. And 60% of this assessment is based in the school, commonly known as formative, and 40% which they sit at the end of grade 6 is commonly known as summative. The scores are analyzed and the reports are used as feedback to the stakeholders. The runners, the parents and teachers received instant feedback about the formative assessments. For the summative KPSE assessment, schools who have been provided with specific reports that highlighted the performance of candidates in each running area and the gaps and the suggestive remedies were also given in those particular reports, and have given the breakdown of the numbers as indicated in that table of all the candidates and a total of 1,194,600 out of the 1,212,000 runners have enrolled in a junior secondary school, translating to a transition rate of 98.54%. It is also shown in the annex, and I've shown the numbers for each and every county as they transitioned to junior secondary. The second part of the question, Honorable Speaker, is that domiciling of junior secondary school in primary schools was also done following the recommendation of the Presidential Working Party, and of course, having received information as to what was required to be done from the counties and the Kenyans at large, because Kenyans were given the opportunity to discuss on this and recommend. So junior secondary school, as we talk, is currently domiciled in the existing primary schools. And all of them, I think, are shown, they are in the given schools. In a few of the above, all grade 6 runners transitioned to the existing primary schools, and we have almost 100% transition in this. The current grade 7 will transition to senior secondary, as you are aware, in the year 2026, and they will also transition to universities in 2029. Part C of the question, that is minimal running taking place in our junior secondary schools, I have this to say. The ministry has been implementing this since 2017, when the government decided that we have to change our education system to align it with what is happening regionally and globally, and also to be able to make it competitive and to equip our young people with the necessary skills and competencies. And ever since then, the first cohort, of course, is the one in junior secondary schools now, and the efficacy of CPC indeed has been subjected to extensive stakeholder consultation and public participation by the Presidential Working Party. And the figures, if you look at the report on the Working Party, Honorable Speaker, 51.2% of the stakeholders engaged said we retain the CPC structure with a review, which of course partly we have done, while 9.6 proposed its retention also. 21 argued that it should be discontinued. 12% submitted that we should be able to reverse to 844, but many of those interviewed acknowledge that CPC indeed gives the runners more confidence, they become more accurate, and have demonstrated emerging competencies at an earlier age compared to 844. And I'm sure members who have these children, you might have those in 844 and you might have those in CPC. You can be able to make a comparison. I personally engage them at the CS education, and I'm able to see indeed there are differences, and CPC comparatively is much better. I also wish to confirm that the government has taken many measures, because we have been given capitation for junior secondary, the tune of 15,040 per student per child, and we have dispersed these funds to the respective schools. Part D is that we have been provided with resources, as I've said, and out of the 15 per annum, it is categorized and split out as this. 1,200 is for textbooks, which we have given to each and every school in the country. I'm happy to report, Honorable Speaker, that there is no school that has not received the necessary textbooks for grade 7. 450 is for preparatory materials. 1,000 is for materials for practical. 2,550 is for stationery, and the amount that we have dispersed so far is 50% of this, which is 9,508,894,355, and we have given the amounts given to each and every county as given in the breakdown which is in the table. We have also spent on course books 3,164,364,856 for junior secondary alone, and we have also given a breakdown on how that money has been spent in each and every part of this country, in each and every county. Teacher Service Commission has also recruited teachers, 6,000 as interns, and we recruited 30,550 teachers to alleviate the very serious teacher shortage that we have in this, and therefore we have posted a total of 38,917 teachers to the respective junior secondary schools all over the country. We have therefore can comfortably say that as much as we have few challenges, even in infrastructure, Honorable Speaker, we are in the process of trying to get funds to construct integrated resource centers and sanitation facilities, and the amount we are looking at is 3.36 billion. We have already had an engagement with the World Bank, and we hope that we should be able to access these funds, which will then enable us to build and construct a total of 1,867 integrated running resource centers. And also our members of parliament through CDF, we are engaging so that they can also be able to assist from the infrastructural part of the funds that they get in CDF, so that we are able to construct particularly repositories which we are calling integrated resource centers. So I must say that there is proper running going on within our CPC, each and every level from grade 1 to grade 7 where we are, and progressively we are also trying to mitigate on the few challenges that we have, particularly on infrastructural development as required by CPC. I so submit.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable CS. That's very comprehensive indeed. Senator Tobiko Pellis, do you have any supplementary question?
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Minister for the response, but I don't wish to lock out fellow senators who may want to ask supplementary questions on the same. Then, Mr. Speaker, I will do the last.
Oh, the last, okay. But still you could ask, you see the first two supplementary questions belong to the own of the question, and then other senators ask only one supplementary question. But if you choose to do at the end of the other questions, supplementary questions, that's fine, that's okay. So, Senator Baz Sheikh Mohammed, Senator Wajir County.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First and foremost, I think I want to thank the Minister. I think it's the few CSs that always respond to Parliament and comes in time. And thank you for that. I think that's a seriousness. One other thing is, Honorable Speaker, my name is Abbas Mohammed, Senator for Wajir. Waziri, I think you know, you have worked in Wajir, I know, in another capacity, and you understand the whole geographical setup. The issue of teachers, acute shortage in Wajir and the entire region of northern Kenya, especially in the three, Mandera, Wajir, and Garissa, has been long overdue. And you know, there's so many teachers who have been moving. There's a lot of, there's high turnover of teachers as a result of security. TSC has used the region as a recruitment centers, but of course, understanding that the situation of the security is still there, but they still recruit, and maybe after 1 year, the teachers are moving out. The security is not actually in the entire region. The security part, and the security part is along the borders. The other part of the region has relatively a very calm, peaceful situation. But now it has become a trend that any time there's one incident, teachers are moving in masses, and then we have been experiencing the same problems. Teachers shortage for the last 15 years now. And I want to thank you for removing the cluster issues in the teachers training colleges, because that has been also an impediment to training of teachers in that region. What plan do you have to at least solve the problem of teachers? Because the insecurity is only one part or one region, along the border. Teachers can be moved to other part of the counties and the other part of the region, instead of removing them from the whole region. So what are your plans for at least so that we don't suffer, continue suffering?
Okay, Honorable CS.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The Honorable Member from Wajir is aware that ever since the time I was appointed this position, I have been to Wajir 2 times and also other parts of northern Kenya. One, we have discussed, even the last time I had a meeting with the local leaders in Wajir, the members of parliament and the governor, we did discuss on this particular issue. And one we came up with is that there have to be homegrown solutions. Homegrown solutions, meaning that, yes, we have to train people from those particular areas to be teachers. One problem we found out is that even those who have trained prefer to go into other jobs. So we don't really have people from those particular areas who, when vacancies arise, can actually apply and be teachers. So we say that the local leadership, I think there is work to be done so that we train enough people from the areas, because yes, depending on people from other parts of the country might not be a permanent solution aside. The permanent solution is that we have to have that homegrown solution. The second one, Honorable Speaker, the truth be told, is that yes, we have had recruitment from other parts of the country, but there is this problem which is perennial, which seems to be recurring every other now and again, and that is insecurity. And really, apart from what the government is doing, it must be a combined effort, the local leadership, the local people, to deal with those issues, because once we have the area secure, proper security, such that there is no fear, because no human being would like to work in an area where he's scared about his own life. He doesn't know what is going to come tomorrow. So that is one other area which has scared away people. And you find employment is done, and after probably a few months or years, one is asking for a transfer or even absconding duty permanently, because that is what we find out. So I think it has to be a collaborative effort between government and the local leadership in order to really mitigate on the kind of challenge we have in that particular area of the country, because even when we declare vacancies, you find Kenyans, a number of people are also not willing to serve in some of those areas. So we have work to do, and I think it's an area that the Member of Parliament knows the challenges we have, which we are supposed to collaboratively deal with. Thank you.
Thank you, CS. Senator Mohamed Chute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Let me commend our able CS for education. You've worked for this country as a politician and now as a cabinet secretary. Congratulations and thank you very much. In support of, Mr. Speaker, in support of Senator Sigei, I think and I believe that the Cabinet Secretary, taking you back to question number 027, you are not, I think you are not given the right picture of what transpired. Looking at the document you produced today, Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet Secretary has shown that there is a payment of 754. And that one shows the contractor was paid over 30 million shillings. That is something the CS should have known. Again, there is the issue of performance bond. Performance bond, the CS is not mentioning about performance bond. Performance bond normally, Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, if you look at yesterday's paper, you've seen Senator Chute has a scandal of 2 billion shillings. That 2 billion shillings, that 2 billion shillings, each contractor can get 30 billion shillings. And Mr. Speaker, when you see this kind of headlines, people don't know the difference between payments to contractors and the scandal.
What is your point of order, Senator Samson?
Mr. Speaker, on the contents of speech standing order number 101 and 105 and 98, is the Senator of Marsabit in order, Mr. Speaker, to try and use this House to cleanse himself from the allegations that he has 2 billion, Mr. Speaker? Is it fair? Can he at least be fair to this country and look and bring a substantive motion or a statement, Mr. Speaker, under standing order number 53 and absolve himself? Because if he goes that direction, he can become the witness of the House and we cross-examine him on 2 billion, because personally I would be interested even to get 10% of 2 billion that he has, Mr. Speaker. Is it in order?
Sorry, Senator Mohamed Chute. Is the amount that is being mentioned related to schools in Marsabit County? Infrastructure development of schools in Marsabit? Is it related with the...
No, Mr. Speaker, it's not.
So just go direct to the question that the
Mr. Speaker, let me thank my friend for bringing this issue up, but I'm going to give a personal statement very soon on the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My other question was, there is the issue of performance bond. The able CS would have told us how much they recovered by recalling the performance bond. And if he cannot give the answer now, can he get some time and give us that answer, if possible, in the next 1 week? Thank you very much.
No, you have no powers to direct the CS.
Thank
you. You are not the chair of it. Why are you taking powers that does not belong to you? Okay, Waziri.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker, and the Honorable Member from Marsabit. We have had 2 functions in Marsabit, one in Moyare and another one in Marsabit. And there were quite a number of challenges that we were also able to witness in Marsabit, which I think he will also be able to focus himself on. Like the only A that we had in Marsabit was a student who went to Maseno School. And you know the recommendations which we had when we were in Moyare, and also the recommendations which we had when we were in a committee in Marsabit. This performance bond is of course a necessity in a project of this magnitude. I did not check the figures on this particular project, and Honorable Speaker, is something that I can also be able to work on and get the figures and be able to avail the figures to the Senate in the next meeting.
Thank you, CS. Let me now get the supplementary question from Senator Tobiko. Honorable Senators, the next question you still have an opportunity to ask your questions.
Thank you,
We are not in a hurry today. We have only 1 CS and we have enough time. But we need to clear these, the next, I think, 4 or 3 or so questions. Senator Tobiko, what is your point of order, Senator Sigei?
Just made. I wanted to get your guidance, particularly on the statement or direction that you have just given, as regards the presence of the Honorable CS today one, and you've said we have no hurry because we have sufficient time. Kindly allow us then, prior to Senator Tobiko asking her supplementary question, to also ask.
As I said that, I also put another reminder that we have several other questions to clear.
Very well. This would
and
be.
You see, Senator Siga gave some very clear guidance when we were starting this. I said, even if you don't ask that supplementary question, then you have still another opportunity. You can go back to even to the first question.
Guided,
CS is
Honorable
well
Speaker.
informed on
I
this
stand
ministry.
guided. I hope then you will give me that
CS
opportunity.
Here with us is one of the CSs who has the glimpse of everything happening in his ministry.
Thank you.
The other ones, the president saying they don't know what is happening. So CS Machungwa
I shall be
is one
patient.
of the CSs who know what they are doing in the ministry.
I shall be patient, Mr. Speaker, to get that opportunity.
Yeah, I want
Thank
to
you.
declare my interest that you worked very closely at the National Assembly, and I know his competence. Therefore, all questions will be handled perfectly.
I want, as a young CBC parent, to benefit from that wide experience. That is why I'm looking forward to getting that opportunity to ask him the question.
Can you ask now?
Yes, very well. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. My question is with regards to the responses that the CS gave. I am aware he's given us a basis of the certain, quite a number of challenges that they have as a ministry, particularly in the implementation of this CPC program. He's given us also the positions that the government has taken, and I must appreciate and applaud the Kenya Kwanza government, and in particular your ministry, for the opportunities that's given to Kenyans. You've given us the numbers, which I know they are more, at 38,917 teachers who've been employed and deployed to various institutions under the JSS program. I'm sure their number, this is something that is in the public domain, that for the very first time in the administration of any government in this country, the highest number of teachers have been employed 8 months into the administration of the Kenya Kwanza government. And I'm sure this, of course, has gotten into it out of the very extensive guidance that you've given as the CS. The policy on home ground solutions, I'm sure, is also one of the options which you've taken in as a solution to the perennial problem which we have under the delocalization program, which, Honorable Speaker, I just wanted to alert the CS that it's not yet been fully implemented. And I will ask that through the very able leadership of the CS, that particular policy be fully implemented so that we enhance the home ground solution in terms of ensuring that the teachers who are in various institutions are able to fully serve the students, the community, and the institution. My question, Mr. Speaker, is with regard to response at paragraph 35 of the response by the CS. This is with regard to the school-based assessment, which is guided at 60% of the CAPSEA assessment program and summative assessment. I am aware that there are so many challenges. In your response, you have said that the school-based assessment comprises classroom assessment conducted by teachers, and the teachers are guided in the curriculum designs on the activities to carry out to assess the learner. Prior to the summative assessment, Mr. Speaker, the institutions which have got very varied facilities, sure cannot be able to assess at an equitable level. What is it that the minister has done, despite the challenges which, of course, I'm aware exist, to ensure that there is some equity, both in terms of these two assessment programs under the CBC program? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Honorable CS.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. As the Honorable Member from Bomet has said, we have so far employed 38,000 teachers, and we are yet to employ another 20,000 this year, which will make 58,000 in total. We did commit as Kenya Kwanza administration that progressively we will be able to go to 100,000 and more, and I'm sure that in the next financial year, we should also be able to do better in this area, because one of the challenges we have countrywide, Honorable Speaker, is on shortage of teachers. Homegrown solution, I'm sure there is the next question also coming from the Member of Parliament, the Senator from Nandi, on the same, but on this particular issue, what I said, particularly on areas not in Kenya and the others, where we have had programs with teachers being employed and then moving out, is that we are also now progressively in the recommendation as contained the Presidential Working Party report, changing the entry grade, because we are now getting into implementation of that report, because one such program that we have had is that teachers and our 32 teacher training colleges, plus the 3 diploma teacher training colleges, were not attracting students. Actually, the capacity we have is 17%. So you can imagine the amount of idle capacity we have. And moving forward, we think the program has been the entry grade, the cluster, which we are working on, such that children from those other areas can be able to train as teachers, and this will be able to give some kind of permanent solution moving forward. But the other part of the question, which will cover Nomura, and I will answer in the next question. School-based assessment. You know, the tool of assessment, which I said, is standardized. Of course, there are disparities. We cannot be able to say there are no disparities from one school to another. But generally, what we found out, our fears were actually kind of done away with, because initially we were thinking, can it be objective? All the criteria of assessment is going to be kind of subjective. And because it is something now we have tested, we have seen the kind of format, the kind of system, what was done, as I've said, individual tests, sometimes engaging into groups, practicals, engagement from the teachers and the other stakeholders, the parents, and overall the formative assessment that we got in the 2022 class, because that was a major area of focus and discussion, kind of gave us research that this is a very workable system. And those of you who have traveled, it's not only applicable here, but all other countries actually are more on formative than summative. Say that summative, which was exam-centered, even the children who would have done better, we were denying them the kind of opportunity that they should have been able to get. So when you come to matters equity, as much as we have disparities, I think the instrument, the tools that we are making use of in assessing this in order to come up with the overall result is such that it is capturing the performance of each and every learner at the stage that we are testing them on. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I can see the chair education is in the house and as requesting for some space, but I was requesting that you stay around reasoning to what is happening, and then you can summarize at the end of this exercise. Okay, Chair, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Let us have Senator Mofaya, and then Senator Tobiko will ask a question.
Thank you, Speaker. Waziri Machogu, the country is happy because I think you have installed sanity to the education system in this country. We have under a lot of confusion on CBC issues, and I'm very sure now the parents are sure of where they are going and where their children are going. I happen to be the senator of Tharaka Nithi County, and I'm about to ask you a question that I'm very sure is on your desk on a number of schools, primary schools, which were burnt and demolished in 1996 in a location called in Toroni. Toroni is in Tharaka North. I think your officers can put those names down. There is a school called Machabeni Primary School, the Karimba Primary School, Kiumbe Primary School, Mpunguru Primary School, and the Kanjaro Primary School. Honorable Speaker, these schools were burnt down, and up to now, we have not seen any response or any activity around making sure that those schools are back. What number of children were discontinued from going to school? And I'm happy, Honorable Waziri, because I can see your sister ministry, the Ministry of Interior. You are doing quite a good job in those Badex 8 areas where you are putting up schools. And maybe it's my request through this Honorable House that the same would be demonstrated in those schools up there. On a rejoinder to that question, Honorable Speaker.
You have only one supplementary question. No,
it's just a subsidiary of that one, sir. With your, it's a subsidiary of that question, Honorable Speaker. Please. You know, I have very many problems in Tharaka Nithi because, Honorable Speaker, as we are aware, we have a Mangombe sub-county, which is a subsidiary of Chuka Mangombe constituency. It's climatically disadvantaged. It's borders Tharaka South, the Tharaka constituency, which is equally disadvantaged but enjoys anti-ship allowance. Mangombe for decades has been neglected. So teachers are running away from that sub-county because they're not enjoying what the other counterparts are doing in the constituency. What could your ministry be doing to make sure that we equalize these two stations? So those are the two questions, Honorable Speaker. Schools that were burnt should be restored.
There are two questions.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. No, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to give those two subsidiary questions.
Thank you, Honorable CS.
Yeah, thank you. I think those of us who are a little bit old in this country, like myself, know the history of Tharaka a little bit, that in I think it was around 1997 or thereabout, when there were ethnic crashes in the area due to land issues. A commission of inquiry was set up and certain recommendations made from that particular commission of inquiry. I have not had the opportunity of really looking at it, and I have not had the opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to know whether the underlying land issues were resolved, because it is out of those land issues that the schools in the affected areas were burned down. So I believe the Honorable Senator can be able to have an opportunity so that he comes over, we engage on those particular issues, and indeed, if the issues have been resolved, why not we will be able to repute the schools the same way we have done in Turukana. The schools, the 15 schools which were burned down, we gave 100 million, and I think with the assistance of the military, we are reputing those schools. In North Rift, same case, the schools which were burned down, we have also given 100 million, and we are reputing those schools. So this particular case from Tharaka, I would encourage that the member of parliament, the honorable member will come, so that we specifically look into those issues, and if the issues are no more, then we will now be able to focus on reputing those particular schools. I think concerning the other one, about the hardship, we did say earlier where there are those cases, we can be able to come up with them and the member can be able to come so that we address the issue to the relevant ministry. Thank you, and I so submit, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Tobiko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I am satisfied with the response from the minister, and I would like to congratulate the minister because, you know, being in the Education Committee, we have walked the journey with him. We've seen the much progress that the ministry has made in terms of the CBC and the junior secondary schools, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my supplementary question was not really related to the question I have asked, but we were given the chance by the Speaker to do a supplementary, to do a question on the ones that had already passed. There was a question that had been asked by Professor Kamar on why the district commissioners are the ones chairing the education committees, Mr. Speaker, at the district, at the sub-county levels. And also after attending the, receiving the presidential working group, report, Mr. Speaker, I have a concern that when we are told about stakeholders who at the grassroots levels who made the decisions, Mr. Cabinet Secretary, don't you think it will also, augur well with this House and even the National Assembly that the Senate and the Senate from those the senators from those counties and the members of Parliament from those counties are involved whenever you have stakeholder meetings, because we will then be moving at the same level, and I believe a lot of questions that are being asked here will then be avoided, because we will address our concerns and our challenges right at the county level. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. We proceed to the next question by Senator Mariam Omar Sheikh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Asking Cabinet Secretary for Education, is the Cabinet Secretary aware that Muslim students in some public schools are not allowed to wear hijab and trousers? In addition to prescribed schools uniform, particularly at Kenya High School and Alliance Girls High School, thereby forcing some of them to seek admission to the other schools. B, why are students being discriminated against despite clear provision in Article 32(4) of the Constitution that, I quote, "A person should not be compelled to act or engage in any act that is contrary to the person's beliefs or religion." C, what action is the government taking to ensure inclusivity in all public funded schools and enjoyment of constitutional right by the students who came from religious background that require additional attires meant to protect and safeguard their honors? Thank you.
Buenos dias.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The position of the ministry is very clear on this, that all religious attire is that no runners shall be denied admission or kept away from school because of their religious attire. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, way back when this issue really came up, on March of 2022, the ministry did issue a directive to all county directors of education and all the principals that the religious rights of runners are not and should not be violated in any of our institutions of running all over the country. This covered that there should be no prohibition of wearing religious attire like hijab and turbans. There should be no forcing students to take Islamic religious education or Christian religious education or Hindu religious education. These are to be optional. They should not deny runners the opportunity to observe religious rites and prayers, may they be Muslims or from another denomination. Even personally, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. We worship on Saturday, and we insist that on those days in any given school, those of our children who worship on Saturday should be able to be given that particular opportunity like any other denomination. Failure to allocate worship, that worship rooms should be allocated and spaces, because this is very key, and that there should be no forcing of runners to participate in religious rites and activities that are contrary to their beliefs. And I think we have attached that particular circular from the ministry, so really the thing is for us to be able to enforce. And in enforcing this, Honorable Speaker, we have an interreligious team committee with the ministry, and we normally have regular meetings, and after the meetings, some of these concerns have been raised, and we are able to disseminate the information to all the relevant parties, all our schools. Indeed, I've even gone to the said schools, and as of now, I think we don't have the kind of problem that might have occurred at one time or another. So I assure the members of this August House that we have zero tolerance to any such kind of discrimination, and that indeed, as a ministry, as a sector, we will be able to make sure that we make and take the necessary remedial action where we find there is a violation in this. Question number B is that indeed the Constitution also, which is the supreme law of the land, is very clear on this, because it does prohibit discrimination on the basis of religion or any belief. And in education, we also have Article 53, which provides that every child has the right to free and compulsory basic education, and religious beliefs and practices cannot therefore be used to prevent children from accessing this right. It is on this basis that we are also implementing 100% transition policy, and any such restrictions will make it not possible for us to achieve the 100% policy that we really want to achieve. And I will request that in case of any such case, any of our public schools or even a private school should be really reported, so that we are able to take the necessary action on the same. Number C, the action we are taking, Honorable Speaker, our county directors, sub-county directors, and indeed the principals are very much aware of this. Anybody going against is doing his own thing, and is not only violating any such law, but going against the constitution of this country. And you know, when you go against the constitution of this country, then you become a candidate for even removal from your position when you violate any provisions of the Constitution, because anybody now going against this is just not like another law, because the Constitution has also come out very clear in this. So we are categorical, we are in agreement that this is not something that should happen in any one of our schools, and where there might be any such isolated case in one of our schools, kindly bring it to our notice, and I assure you that we will be very effective, very categorical, and very bold in taking the necessary disciplinary action, including what is provided for in our Constitution. I so submit.
Thank you, Waziri. Senator Mariam, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank CS for his effort to reply the questions. Mr. Speaker, when I raised this query, I raised on the facts, because parents came to me to my office from Wajir, from Mandera, for the school Kenya High and Alliance. CS, when you said there is a directive, you wrote to county directors of education on 4th March 2022, and there are numbers of content, which is A to E in your response. Out of those contents of your directives, A, which is a prohibition of wearing religious attire like hijab and turbans, is not effective. That's why I raise the questions. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm not satisfied with the response. Again, when the minister said in his response, the ministry has not received any specific reports of violation at Kenya High and Alliance Girls. That's why I write to the minister. That's the allegation I get, and it's a fact. That's discrimination. So I am expecting maybe a sort of action to follow it up with your directive of 2022. Maybe a letter, a response that show I have written to so many schools, and this is their response, sort of. But I am not satisfied with the response. Maybe, and again, in the reports, in his response, I dispatch a team to investigate the matter. So that means when I raise the question is somehow in July. So by now, when he dispatched his team to the specific 2 schools, he can have got the results by now. So, Chair, Speaker, I am not satisfied with the questions, the response.
Thank you, Waziri. I hope you understood the question.
Now, Honorable Speaker, if I can a little bit go to the history. The Honorable Member knows that around 2021, there was a case which was taken to court. And specifically, it was in the following Kenya High School. And the court indeed pronounced itself on that particular matter, that what the school was trying to do was not right. And as I've said, Honorable Speaker, sir, I've had a meeting, we have that interreligious committee, and actually even the last meeting that we had in my office with the board of management of Kenya High, the principal, I think this was about 2-3 months ago. One other issue that I did make very clear to the board was that we should not be able to have such a case again, because it gives negative publicity to that particular school or another school. I've had a meeting with all the principals in this country when they had their KEPSA meeting in Mombasa, and again, as CS Education, again I pronounced myself on this matter. We have had a meeting with all the principals of national schools. What is the agenda when we have some of these meetings? Is to inform them that yes, if you violate or don't implement any directive as given by government, because those are government directives given, and the directive is based on what actually emanates from their constitution, then you will be doing it at your own peril, because you cannot be able to come up and implement your own decisions, what you think should be done against the law of the land. So in a case, there's an individual case, even the last meeting, I think we were joined by a very top officer of mine, who is also very religious. He knows him from Wajir, and in case there are any such individual cases, kindly don't shy away from coming to my office so that we are able to deal on each and every case on its own merit. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Mariam, you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and the CS. Mr. Speaker, agreed with the CS, but I need an action, maybe a promise from the CS by the term opening of the third term, that most of the schools, because I identify only 2 schools, that is Kenya High and Alliance, but there are some which has the same issue. But I need a promise to the outside, to the citizens, that by the end of, by the opening of the term, that Kenya High and Alliance will adhere to your directives. Thank you.
Waziri, I'm not sure if you're in a position to give the
Thank you,
promise.
Honorable Speaker. I invite, I have an open door policy, and members will know that when you have an issue, you are always welcome into my office. The Honorable Senator is always welcome, and I undertake that I will be able to uphold and make sure that the supreme law of the land is actually observed. And anybody who does not observe, then we will be able to catch up with him.
Thank you, Waziri. Senator Wakili Hillary, you have a question?
Honorable Speaker, I don't have a question as regards the particular response that the CS has given. I was queuing for the next opportunity.
Very well.
Thank you.
Senator Murgo, you have a question on this, a supplementary question on this question.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I just wanted to ask the Minister if he's aware that schools in Sigor constituency or Pokot Central are still closed because of insecurity that there was. But other schools in the neighborhood have reopened, and we even thank the ministry for constructions going on in TRT, and that has kind of restored normalcy. And so, but Sigor is still, the schools that were closed are still closed.
Senator Murgo, sorry to interrupt you. You have a supplementary question following Senator Mariam's question?
No.
Okay, please take a seat. Can we go to the next question? Joe Nyotu, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I chair the Education Committee in this House. And I may want to ask a supplementary question following Senator Mariam's question to the Honorable CS. And that is there a government policy on school uniform? And if yes...
Senator Tobiko, you have to follow the standing orders. You cannot cross the alley that way. Continue, Senator Nyotu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had just started asking my question. Is there a government policy on school uniform? And if yes, how does the ministry ensure that the policy does not exclude students of a particular religious and/or cultural background from seeking enrollment or continuing their enrollment in a school? And Mr. Speaker, the CS has pronounced himself very well on the directives that have been given to schools. But I may want the CS to tell this House exactly what is the ministry doing to see to it that the directives that the ministry gives are complied with. And when they are not complied with, exactly what happens? Because, Mr. Speaker, why I ask that is because I know the minister does not have a direct control on teachers. They are under the Teacher Service Commission, which is autonomous. And so I'm just wondering what the minister would do if, for example, a particular principal of a particular school does not comply with the guidelines of the ministry. Because we know that more often than not, these principals do not comply. Mr. Speaker, we have had fees guidelines in this country for a long time, where we are told that, for example, a national school is not supposed to charge, just as an example, more than Kenya shillings, maybe 50,000. But they end up charging even 90,000, Mr. Speaker. So exactly what does the ministry do? Because Senator Mariam here is talking about schools that she knows are not complying with this order. We know, all of us know, like I've said, schools not complying with the fees guidelines. Exactly how does the ministry work with TSC to see to it that those that do not comply are, that action is taken against those that do not comply? Mr. Speaker, I rest my case this far before I come back, if you allow me, for other supplementary questions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think, Senator Joe, you only allowed one supplementary question.
I am aware, Mr. Speaker. I'm talking about when we go to the next questions by other senators, Mr. Speaker. Well. That is what I was referring to.
Very well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bwana Waziri, tafadhali.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. It is clear that there is a policy on the uniform. And indeed, what we say, and even when you go to schools in any part of the country, you will find there's a uniform. But again, religious attire is worn in addition to the school uniform. Say that it's not a totally different thing from what the school uniform is something, an addition. The second one, yes, Kenya, we have a very progressive constitution. The Honorable Senator from Muranga knows that. I think we are the only country in Africa and probably the world where the ministry is separate from, kind of having an autonomous, a constitutional commission, and that is Teachers Service Commission as pronounced in the 2010 Constitution. But I must say that, we have to work. It is one sector. It is one sector, such that when our principal does something, it is not based on anything personal. It's something that will be very clear that he has been able to do 1, 2, 3, and when directives are issued, they are issued based on the law, such that even Teacher Service Commission, being part of the sector, is supposed to implement what actually emanates from the law. There are certain basic few issues that we are trying to iron out to make sure that we are able to deliver, we are able to partner better with Teachers Service Commission as opposed to developing silos. And that's why you see even the recommendation are contained in the Presidential Working Party on quality assurance, such that we have to avoid this duplication, because by the end of the day, the exchequer is one. The ministry gets these funds to do a function from exchequer, and then you find the same exchequer is also giving funds to do the same function to Teacher Service Commission. And when you are given, two people are given the same function, either it will be done, or one will say somebody will do it, and then by the end of the day you find it is not done. So I think the kind of cooperation we are having, we cannot have a principle and have not had an experience, because there are principles we have been able to deal with where I find that they are not following the directives, like what you said, charging illegal levies. We had 2 cases in Kirivi recently, and in cooperation with Teacher Service Commission, we were able to deal with those cases, including dealing with the sub-county directors who were involved in this particular malpractice. Thank you. I shall submit.
Thank you, Waziri. Next question by Senator Samson Cherargei. And Senator, could I indulge you to be very fast, because I think we're only left with an hour of questions. I would like to cover all the questions.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I think I'm the last one on the trench. I will be very faithful in usage of time, but of course to achieve the intended purpose we're here. Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for this indulgence. I've waited so long, like the waiting of Jesus Christ, to ask these questions. Question number 037, Mr. Speaker, sir. 1, could the Cabinet Secretary state the amount of funds allocated as capitation to all public primary and secondary schools in the financial year 2022-2023, indicating the amount already disbursed as well as the amount outstanding? Mr. Speaker, sir, part B of the question, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the procedure in disbursement of the funds to the schools and indicate measures the government has put in place to ensure timely disbursement of the funds as per the law? Mr. Speaker, part C, why are parents with children in public schools required to buy learning materials when such materials ought to be provided by the government? Number D, Mr. Speaker, sir, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a list of all pre-qualified suppliers of textbooks and other learning materials, indicating the total amount owed in pending bills to the suppliers and the respective schools and companies involved? Mr. Speaker, sir, I had 3 questions. Should I read all of them, or he answers one by one?
I think it's better he answers one by one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Waziri.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. The question number 37 is that during the financial year 2022-2023, a total allocation for free primary education program was 12 billion and 1 million, and a total amount of 9,288,570,185 has been disbursed in the same period. Term 2, we had a disbursement done on 4th of July, which was 2,737,012 for 8,869,402 runners. It has been given term 3 up to what we have given on this term 1, 2023, from A to D. I think is kind of self-explanatory as given in the report. A further disbursement of 99,879,981 was made on the 21st June 2023 to cater for 469,018 runners. And the figures are given there, including junior secondary schools, where there have been two disbursements, one and the first disbursement being 9,508,994,355, which was done on the 13th April 2023, while the second disbursement was 3,774,304,250, done on the 20th June 2023. The ministry received a total budgetary allocation of 64,421,865,698 for capitation, and this is for secondary schools now. We were in primary, we have come to secondary, and the money has been dispersed as indicated term 2, term 3, as indicated in the figures up to E, and the way the entire amounts have been dispersed. Section B of the question is that capitation, disbursement of capitation to schools is done every quarter of the financial year. For primary schools, the disbursement initially based on manually corrected and corrected data from schools, but of course we now have a better system. As you know, information is captured in NEMIS, which gives us the specific figures for each and every county, each and every sub-county, each and every school before any disbursement is done, because it is based on specific numbers. Disbursement to secondary schools is fully automated through the NEMIS platform, and it is the data so obtained from the system which we make use of in order to disperse the funds to all our primary and secondary schools. In order to, of course, sometimes we experience delays, and out of the delays, once after a while, you get, we don't disperse the funds exactly the required time, but going forward, we have had an engagement with the Treasury and said we should be able to change where term 1 we will now be giving 50%, term 2 30%, and then going to term 4, term 3 when we will be able to issue the remainder of the 20%. The last part of the question, Mr. Speaker, is that indeed, in terms of running resources, the ministry through the Kenya Institute for Curriculum Development, KICD, provides textbooks to runners in public primary and secondary schools at the ratio of 1 to 1 in all the running areas. So we don't expect that parents will again engage in buying books, because we have already provided the books out of the public funds that are given to us. And the capitation also given per runner, like in junior secondary schools, which is 15,042. I did give the breakdown where 450 is for preparatory materials, 1,000 for practicals, and 2,550 for stationery, and there's also some other amount which is also supposed to cater for infrastructure. So we expect that what we are giving will be adequate to procure all the resources and the materials required at each and every level in basic, because we say that as enshrined in the Kenyan Constitution, free and compulsory running at each and every stage, and that's why government is able to provide all this, so that we don't have any, about having an excuse not to send his or her child to school. Part of the question is that we don't have pre-qualified suppliers for textbooks for our public schools. The suppliers we have are procured through an open tendering process, and I have given the books as procured for level 5 to 7, and the set books for secondary schools, and we have given the list of those who were able to compete, KRB, Mountaintop, JKF, that is Jomo Kenyatta Foundation. We have all of them listed there on our chairperson from number 1 to number 10, and each and every one of them was able to compete, and out of the result of the process, they were awarded and the specific books and the number of books that they were able to supply. So I don't have to go through the entire list. I think it's self-explanatory, so that the members can be able to go through the same number. And I think that provides the answer. And Honorable Speaker, I so submit.
Senator Cherargei, do you have a supplementary question?
Colleagues, Bwana Cabinet Secretary, in page 14, you have indicated that you have paid 50% on junior secondary school. But in response to my question, that is supplementary question 1, you have indicated by June you have given the total amount to junior secondary school. Is it your submission that you want to mislead the House by giving contradicting information to this House? That is number 1. The final supplementary question, Mr. Speaker, under the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, Section 86, it says that a successful tender shall be given to the lowest evaluated in the pricing. Under the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, Section 86, successful person who should be given the tender should be the lowest. So, Speaker, on this issue of supply of textbooks, how sure are we that the open tender that is being given by the ministry, although there are locations that they come from one, in the other outside the mainstream publisher from one ethnic community, is outside this, how sure are we as a House, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the people who are given through the open tender meet Section 86 of the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, Mr. Speaker? And on the issue of textbooks, Mr. Speaker, because it's one question, the final question, is I had asked about the total pending bills that the Ministry of Education owes. Is it 1.1 billion, as I've seen in the shared that the CS had shared? Or, Mr. Speaker, what is the total pending bill as we talk today about this to the suppliers of the textbooks? Just in one sentence, Mr. Speaker, so that you don't violate the, Mr. Speaker. And I want to confirm to the CS, contrary to saying that they are providing learning materials to schools, Mr. Speaker, I think V2 ground is different. The CS should use evaluation and monetary unit and presidential delivery unit to undertake, because most parents are still buying the learning materials. Mr. Speaker, those are my 2 supplementary questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Waziri?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The members would agree with me. The first set of answers that we gave in June, the question was, if you look at 73, it was asking about the first disbursement, which we gave, and we have now won the second disbursement. So there's the 9.5 and there's the 3.7. So combined, is more than the 9. So there's 9,580,994,355. And then there's the second disbursement, which was also done on the 20th June 2023, which is 3,774,304,250. Concerning the pending bills, if you go to 84, the money owed to the publishers, I think we have given the particulars, the grade and the outstanding amount in each and every grade, that is grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, and also the 2022 SATI books contracts. We have given, actually making the total to be 1,157,522,771. And we are trying to see whether we can be able to cover and offset this as we approach the first supplementary. We are doing our best in the prevailing circumstances, as I said, to make sure that all the materials, all the running materials are actually provided, and so far so good, because we have been able to reach each and every primary and each and every secondary school. Thank you. I submit.
I think you asked 2 supplementary questions, Senator Arge. So I will allow other senators to ask a supplementary question. Senator Hillary Wakili.
Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker, sir. And as I ask this question, I first like to appreciate the CS for the responses that he's given to the questions that have been asked. My question is picked from your response at page 24, paragraph 23. This is with regards to the disbursements of capitation to schools, which have responded is quarterly done, and also on the basis of manually collected and collected data from schools. And you have indicated that in the financial year currently on, that is in this quarter, all institutions are expected to have uploaded their details and those of their learners to the NEMI system. My question to the Honorable CS is whether they have any facilitative arrangement under the ministry at the national level and the county level to support institutions which are yet to get registration under the NEMIS, so that they get the capitation because they already have students. I'm asking this question, Honorable CS, because in my office I've got several institutions that have asked for my intervention to get their IPPG registration. In particular, I've got one from Chapalungu constituency, Kongasis ward, a primary school by the name Kapchumbe. I've got also a secondary school in Chebunya ward of the same constituency, where they have got students, but they haven't been beneficiaries of the capitation from the ministry. Why? Because they have lacked the IPPG identifier for purposes of entering the details within the ministry. So my question is, what is the arrangement, if you have, to facilitate and support such institutions to ensure that they are all able to benefit from the capitation from the ministry, especially where sometimes even their inability to register is not, of course, a problem that is to the ministry, but maybe from their end, failure to have all the documentations required. I am aware that for purposes of that registration, there are certain mandatory documentations required for such institutions to be registered. How do you help to facilitate? I'll be very happy that CS, as you live here, maybe you can assign me 1 or 2 of your officers to ensure that we serve these institutions so that they benefit in the next quarter, where you have said you will only be able to release capitation to institutions that have already uploaded their details. Thank you.
Waziri?
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Chair. It's through like what the Honorable Member said, we had actually 2 major problems in this which we are trying to overcome. One was registration of schools. There were quite a number of schools, primary and even sometimes secondary schools, which were not registered and therefore not captured in NEMIS. And when these schools were not captured in NEMIS, it meant that they were not able to benefit from capitation. What is it that we have done as a ministry? One is to fast track the registration of schools, and rather than centralizing the process where the requirement was for approval to be given from the headquarters here, we have said the approval has to be done at the county level, such that we have made the process much easier. And from the numbers that we had initially, as we came in for schools which had not been registered, against the ones we have now, a lot of progress has been made, and I'm happy to report that quite a number of schools are now properly captured in NEMIS. In case there's any school in any county or any given sub-county which is still not registered so as to benefit from this particular our capitation, kindly bring it to my attention, because you know what we found out. Where were we when you find a school has been able to continue, proceed from grade 1, probably up to grade 4. A secondary school is from Form 1 to 4 to Form 3 is almost going to register for the main exam, and somebody tells you it is not registered, and yet it is in a given county, it is in a given sub-county where we have our field officers. So we said we have to expeditiously work so that we register those schools in order for them to benefit. 2, the other problem that we had was the requirement where party certificates were required in order for one to be captured in NEMIS. We are also working on this. Our ICT officers, I think, from the ministry, and we have now interns in almost each and every sub-county, where we are also progressively working on this to make sure that nobody is left out from this particular system, so that the schools and the students are able to benefit out of this. So, Honorable Speaker, sir, is something that we are aware and we are working on, and we are even coming up with a biometrics system going in the future, so that as quickly as possible we capture each and every Kenyan in the system, including what we are trying to do in our tertiary and higher education, our universities, because we have also been experiencing almost a similar program. Thank you. I submit.
Thank you, Waziri. Next question, Senator Cherargei. And this time around, I would plead with you to allow other members to ask supplementary question, if you can cede your supplementary question to other members.
Your directions.
When you ask this question, if you could cede your supplementary question to another member.
But
due to
the standing
time
order
management
provides me two extra.
That's why I'm pleading with you.
I will make it 1. Okay. The Speaker, question number 38. 1, could the Cabinet Secretary provide an update on the status of the localization program that entails the transfer of teachers from their native place of birth to another locality. Mr. Speaker, part B of the question is, what are the reasons for the delayed reversal of the delocalization policy by the Teacher Service Commission, TSC, following the TSC commitment to do so in January 2023? Mr. Speaker, and finally, could the Cabinet Secretary state the total number of teachers from Nandi County awaiting the reversal on the localization program? I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Waziri.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Without going into the merits and the demerits of localization, the Honorable Member is aware that ever since this administration came into being, we gave a lot of emphasis that we cannot be able to have this policy, the localization. We have, on the contrary, what we call nationalization. And ever since the time we started this, a lot of progress has been done, and quite substantial progress has actually been done in this particular aspect, if I can be able to give figures. One is that the policy, of course, has been reversed, unlike the way it was before, because it had become kind of a policy that if you are working in your home area, you are transferred to another county, another area. That has been reversed, decided that even in employment, you want priority to be within your own county. I think that is taken into consideration. So we have had a stop on that, and we have had very, very good progress in this. And when you come to the numbers, Honorable Speaker, the number that are so far applied for transfer from one account to another as at June 2023 to the Teacher Service Commission is 46,962 applications across the country, and out of which those who have already been transferred are 20,055, of whose transfers have been effected to their home counties, and we have been able to give a table explaining how this has been done. Specifically coming to the county of Nandi, the number of teachers who requested for transfer to Nandi were 1,005. And out of the 1,005, the number that has so far been repressed is 828 to Nandi, and the others are being processed. And also, as explained in the answer, Honorable Speaker, we also want to create the stability in the teaching sector, such that sometimes you find if a school has 10 teachers, and all of them are applying, probably they are from some other parts of the country to get out of that particular school. We have to make sure that there is a proper replacement. As we transfer them out, we also make sure that there is a replacement, such that running has to go on. And hence, that is why you see sometimes we are not 100% of this process. We are almost at 40-something%. And progressively, as we get proper replacements, we hope we should be able to get to that figure, because we also want stability in our schools so that you don't either transfer, because we have the figures of the shortfall, the number that we should have in each and every county, such that even as you transfer, there should be some kind of harmony, so that you are not giving one county more, and then you create a great acute shortage in some other counties. So we are careful in this so that we don't also destabilize the education sector as we are working on this. I so submit.
Thank you, Waziri. Senator Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, this time, although Standing Order 51C gives the questionnaire power of 2 supplementary questions, but for the comfort of my colleagues, I'll just make it 1. Mr. Speaker, I have done my due diligence, and I tell Waziri vitu kwa ground is different because I have teachers here from my county, just from Vihiga, only, who wants to be recruited back to Nandi, and there are 43 of them. Why is the CS allowing county directors of TSC and education to have so much powers than the President of the Republic? The Speaker, the regulations of TSC, one of them is on medical grounds, Mr. Speaker. This Kenya Kwanza government, which I campaigned passionately, one of the reasons teachers voted for us is because we were going to do away with the localization. Why is the minister saying they have removed, but they are doing it behind the back? Because I have so many complaints, and I will table this before the House, Mr. Speaker, on the delocalization. For example, in Nandi County, I can tell you, my colleagues who are seated here, there is every minute, a teacher is requesting to be taken back, Mr. Speaker. One of the rules of regulations is on medical grounds, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion. I have a teacher who works in Western Kenya. He has a sickly child that at least every Thursday, she must take it to an hospital in Eldoret town. Every Thursday, Mr. Speaker. These are on medical grounds, but when they go to TSC Director County and TSC County Director, Mr. Speaker, they find it enough reason. Do they want these teachers to die? Number 2, another factor, Mr. Speaker, is on marriage. You find the husband is working in your county, in Garissa. The wife is working in Homa Bay. Is it the interest of the TSC and Ministry of Education to separate the families and encourage infidelity, Mr. Speaker? Can the CS give commitment that what they are telling this House, because this is only fit for academic discourse, what they are telling the House is what is happening on the ground, Mr. Speaker? Because my teachers are suffering. For the last 1 year, Mr. Speaker, I've been having problems with the teachers, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of Education and the TSC be fair to the teachers of this republic and be honest with the public and do away with the localization? Let the teachers work where it is conveniently. A teacher, Mr. Speaker, has only 5 years to go to retire. Why would you transfer him all the way from Nandi to Lamu or even to Mombasa? For what purpose? What are you? In fact, that is a time they need to work near home as they transit to retirement. They see their grandchildren, appreciate what they have been doing for this country. Mr. Speaker, can the Cabinet Secretary give commitment on this aspect of delocalization once and for all for the teachers and the Kenyans and the students of this republic, Mr. Speaker? That's my only supplementary question.
Thank you, Senator Waziri.
Yeah, thank you very much. As honorable members also noted here, including the chair of the Committee on Education, is that we are dealing with an independent commission. That's when we get it right. But as I said, this administration made it clear that we don't want to break down families, and that was one major reason of consideration that we reversed this particular policy, which really inconvenienced people, which separated families, and as rightly said by the honorable member, actually there were families which in the process broke down. Either the man went and got married elsewhere, the wife went into other things, and the stability of families is key to the stability of the nation. And of course, on medical grounds, is also a factor to be taken into consideration. The number given as 43 wanting to move from Vihiga to Nandi, one other thing I found out, because there are teachers who come even to me saying they want a transfer, when in actual fact, they have not applied for the same. So a teacher will be able to come to a member of parliament, will be able to come to the cabinet secretary, but that particular teacher has not applied for that particular transfer. I can see, without naming one member here, who came to me saying she wanted a transfer from one account to another. And, of course, when I called the Teacher Service Commission, they did transfer that particular teacher, and quite a number. So progressively, there is progress, because I've said we are at 40-something%, and most likely I want that figure by the end of the year. I've given targets to Teacher Service Commission. I want us to be over 60%, because we are still at a C. I want us to get to a B+, and finally to A. So I submit, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Senator John Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My supplementary question to the CS relates to question number 37 by Senator Gerald Gay of Nandi County, and which was about capitation. Mr. Speaker, there are areas in this country where public schools are not available for learners. So, Mr. Speaker, what I am trying to drive at is the fact that some private schools that exist in this country, in some areas of this country, came into existence because of the need that the investors identified. And if you allow me, Mr. Speaker, I can give you an example of Githurai, that is Kiambu side, where we only have one public school by the name Mweki Primary School, and which has a population of about 4,000 or 5,000 pupils. So in this particular area, Mr. Speaker, there are very many private schools that have come up not to serve people that are, if you may, rich, but because pupils in that area cannot all fit in Mweki Primary School. I mean, I may not have the figures, but that side of Githurai could have as many as 20,000 school-going pupils, Mr. Speaker. And so, why I am building that foundation is because I would like the Honorable CS, who is very hardworking and very committed, Mr. Speaker, does not miss committee summons, to tell us, does the ministry have any plans to profile private schools in order for those that go to private schools because there are no available spaces in public schools to benefit from capitation by government? Mr. Speaker, because we also have what we call ABET schools, informal schools, serving some of the poorest of the poor, but these pupils do not get capitation. Mr. Speaker, if you allow, may the Cabinet Secretary tell us what we are going to do, because you'll find a school like Nairobi Primary School with the very well-to-do people, but receiving capitation. You go to Kibra and find some very needy students in some funny school, but classified as private and does not enjoy capitation. What are the plans to bring on board needy learners in private schools as far as capitation and textbooks provision by the government is concerned? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Chair Education. Bwana Waziri.
Yeah, thank you very much. What the honorable member from Murang'a said is correct, that we have parts of this country, and such one example is Nairobi County, where for some reason we don't have adequate and now public schools. What is it we are doing as government? Of course, we have been able to identify that there is a problem which there must be a solution. We have had a meeting with the local leadership, the members of parliament and the governor, and I think we have said that they must get public grant where we will be able to build additional schools in primary and also in secondary, because even after the primary school level, when they are exiting to secondary schools, we don't have enough places in Nairobi, so you find they have to get admissions and places in the neighboring counties. So it's a program we have been able to identify. Actually, even about 1 month ago, when we were in Roysambu, a school which has 6 acres over-congested, with His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, we are doing additional 30 classrooms. We are doing 5,000 classrooms in Nairobi to be able to accommodate the huge population that is not able to find admission in public schools. And this particular financial year, because we have said an allocation of 3 billion for Nairobi alone, because of that particular program that we experience in Nairobi, we will be getting 1 billion per year. So you can see, ever since the time we came into administration as a new administration, we have identified the problem, and there is something we are doing about it. And not only in Nairobi, but also in neighboring counties, like in Mwiki, where you have said we are giving some kind of affirmative action to those particular areas, and that's why government has committed that we must have additional funds, because education is really key. We are looking at the human capital. About giving capitation to private schools, that one, Honorable Speaker, no, we don't have such a policy. Members of Parliament, you will be able to remember even the kind of debate that has been on as far as giving capitation to private universities is concerned, and how Kenyans have been able to pronounce themselves on that particular area, because they said, yes, you are giving public funds to private enterprises, people who are doing their own businesses, and you even don't have the capacity or the ability to audit the public funds that you are giving to those particular entities. So we have really no plan, and that's why you see even the public universities, we have come up with a system, a criteria, a funding model where we are now funding our public universities, and also to allay the fears, even those coming from poor backgrounds. There is a proper system which government has been able to put in place, where we will be able to fund through giving scholarships almost 100% to those who come from those backgrounds that they cannot be able to raise school fees. And we have categorized them into 4. The very vulnerable who will be able to get almost 100%, and the instrument in which we are using in measuring this, equivalent to what we have been using in higher loans education board, about 45,000 Kenyans will be beneficiary of this. The extremely needy, the less needy, all those 4 categories, and each and every Kenyan will be able to access education. So concerning private schools, Honourable Member, through the Speaker, we still don't have that policy that we can be able to give public funds. Thank you. I so submit.
Thank you, Waziri. Next question, Senator Samson Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, sir, question number 039, Part A. Could the Cabinet Secretary indicate when a lifestyle audit was conducted last on senior officers at the Teacher Service Commission, including the Chief Executive Officer? Part B, Mr. Speaker, are there plans by government to conduct further lifestyle audits on senior officers at the Teacher Service Commission, and if so, provide timelines for this?
Waziri.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. When I went through the question, You know, you have to understand your mandate and your remit and your powers. I did a look through and I said, I think the constitutional and the legal responsibility is with the ethics and anti-corruption commission, which is supposed to do this. And I, therefore, sought the information from them. I wrote to the Attorney General and also to the ESCC to provide the information. And the commission wrote back to me, sorry, I had not attached this letter which I have from the commission. With your permission, probably it can be tabled, dated the 31st July 2023, because I do not have the capacity as a ministry to be able to undertake this. So the commission says it has not received any report on corruption or economic crimes touching on senior officers of the Teacher Service Commission as to enable it to invoke this particular mandate in order for them to undertake the livestock audit, because they're the ones who are empowered to do that. And they also say the question has not been able to state why we exactly want to undertake such a lifestyle audit concerning senior officers from the Teacher Service Commission. And therefore, they say they have not been able to get sufficient reasons to commence investigations on unexplained assets in the following officers of the Commission. So, as I said, as a ministry, if you look at our mandate, if you look at the law, it's something that we don't have the capacity to be able to do. So that is the answer from the body which is mandated to do that. The second part, I think that is that answers the question, and I so submit. And in case the letter is required for record, I can be able to have it submitted, Honorable Speaker.
So, Waziri, I think you would have to submit the letter so that it is tabled on the floor of the House. Thank you. Yes, Senator Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, I will, because in the interest of time, I will need your guidance on question number 40, maybe later, if I can request that question to be deferred to a later date, or we take written submission, because my interest is on this one. Finally, because I'll have only one supplementary question. The CS has indicated that they don't have this information. Mr. Speaker, I will also need your ruling that if the CS are an independent commission, can the TAC itself, one, appear before the House, since the veil or the veil that the CS has been hiding is that TAC is an independent commission. Number one, I will need your ruling. Number two, we are not, Mr. Speaker, when you look at part 4 of the Regulations of Anti-Corruption Act and Economic Crimes Act, it provides on the issue of wealth declaration. I didn't know you must do wealth declaration because investigations are ongoing, number one. Number two, Mr. Speaker, when you look at Standing Order number 51C 6B of the Senate Standing Orders, it says the Cabinet Secretary shall answer the question. It does not say may. So the Cabinet Secretary did not answer. So he has violated Standing Order number 51C 6B. Number 4, Mr. Speaker, so that Section 4 and 5 of the Access to Information Act number 31 of 2016 is very clear. On the disclosure of information is Section 5. Section 6 provide limitation of non-disclosure of information under Information and Access Act based on national security. I didn't know the well declaration of senior of TSC official and CEO is a threat to national security, and therefore should have met ratio of section number 6 of the Information and Access Act, Mr. Speaker. And Article number 35, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, every citizen under Article number 35, and my learned senior Senator Sige is here, will confirm, and senior counsel, or not senior learned friend Senator Cheptumo, who was the chair emeritus of JLAC, is very clear under Article 35, access to information is a basic right. What we are requiring from the TSC and the CEO, Mr. Speaker, is not a threat to national security. We are requesting it under Article 35 on access to information. Unless the CS will tell us that there is a threat to national security, Mr. Speaker, and mind you, Mr. Speaker, the CEO in office, as of a short retirement age, she turned 60 on 11 May 2023. But we are in July, yet TSC has not gotten a CEO, Mr. Speaker, therefore violating the letter written by CS Chuma on 23rd February 2023. Mr. Speaker, would I be in order, understanding number 1, the CS has not responded, would I be in order to request you, Mr. Speaker, would I be in order to request that this question you give a considered ruling on the 2 aspects, the independent, the TSC to appear before the House because they're independent, and number 2, our right to access to information, because we are doing it on behalf of Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. And this same commission is facing lethargy of court cases because of their ability and their competence in serving the teachers in this republic, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I say this answer by the CS, I am not satisfied. I cannot even give to my PP1 child such a response. Mr. Speaker, I submit respectfully.
Thank you, Senator Cherargei. I understand that you're not satisfied with the question, but as far as the Minister of Education is concerned, the question is answered, and he has tabled the copies of his letters to EACC. And I think as far as the chair is concerned, that the question is answered. So at this point, I will take another supplementary question from Senator Esther Anyeni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for granting me this opportunity. I've been waiting the whole morning. First, I want to commend the ministry for taking up the initiative to pay the teachers and examiners who are marking the 2022 Kenya National Examination Council. Yes, because I rose on a statement on 4th May to seek on why those examiners had not been paid. So secondly, I also want to direct this question to the Cabinet Secretary on the measures that NEC is undertaking to address the differences in payment made to teachers who mark KCSE exams based on subjects, or rather, maybe the Cabinet Secretary needs to bring this house by informing them whether it's a criteria that teachers who are marking different subjects be paid differently. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Waziri.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. One is that we have now paid all our examiners countrywide. There was a little bit of a delay, but we were able to get the 2 billion Kenya shillings, which each and every examiner in this country is now paid. Honorable Speaker, subjects are, if you look at the questions, there are those, when the examiner is marking, it will take a little bit more time. Like, take example of Kiswahili. Kiswahili, we have INSA, we have certain other explanations, which the question is not one-ended. It will require the examiner to take more time. And there are questions in other papers, like Kiswahili, we pay, I think, Kenya shillings 73 per script. And CRE, we pay 50 around 53 per script. Why do we do that? If you look at probably the questions in the CRE, there are others which you can ask you, where was Jesus Christ born? How many disciples did Jesus Christ have? But the nature of the questions in these other subjects like Kiswahili and the rest are not the same. I had the same challenge last year in the 2022 examination, which, as you know, our teachers who were marking paper 2 of CRE were insisting that we have to pay the equivalent of what we are paying in Kiswahili, those ones who were in Francis Mangu. And the argument was exactly that. And again, teachers are taken through some kind of training before they come to mark. And there's also a contract, Honorable Speaker, that you sign. And in that particular contract, it makes it very clear that yes, if you are a biology, if you are a mathematics, if you are a geography teacher, if you are a CRE teacher, the amount that you are going to be paid in this is this much. It's actually contractual. But I agree that apart from one subject, we are working on a package for our examiners because they require better terms. The environment in which they mark, we are also working on having it improved because the kind of work that they do in marking those exams, indeed they are the major stakeholders in this. They make us have success, and therefore we are looking at this, but as far as the subjects are concerned, that is the criteria that is followed. I so submit, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Waziri. Honorable Senators, I should be invoking Standing Order number 34, 2A, so that we can extend for a further 15 minutes to finish, to conclude the business of the questioning. Senator Wakili Hillary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It is not only Senator Cherargei who is under the pressure and suffering by the concerns on the delocalization question that I had asked. Honorable Speaker, my supplementary question was with regards to that particular question that Senator Cherargei asked about the implementation of the policy by the Teacher Service Commission. And if I got right, the statistics that Honorable CS gave us, out of 46,000 applications for transfers, or rather rerouting by the teachers, Teacher Service Commission has processed approximately 20,000, which is below 50%. And I appreciate the concerns by the CS as regards the independence of the commission. Indeed, Teacher Service Commission is a Chapter 15 commission established under Article 237 of the Constitution. But then again, the Ministry of Education, which also runs the policy of the government of the day, should at least be able to have a position in terms of implementing a number of its policies. One of the questions that Honorable Cherargei has asked is, in the absence of a provision under the standing orders or in question as to the appearance of a commission, or rather a CEO of an independent commission, what recourse do we have? Because that was one of the answers the Honorable CS gave in his attempt to respond to the question. From my county, the Bomet County, Cherargei gave you a list, Honorable CS, of 43. I've got a bigger list, largely from Bungoma County, who are seeking to be rerouted back to Bomet County, and a very huge number still from Wajir and also, I think, Mandera counties. These are people who have indeed made applications on the online portal of the Teacher Service Commission and are awaiting the rerouting, particularly where the government has pronounced itself on the need to implement that policy, so that we support them in the context of the issues you raised, that one, we would want to protect families. We also would want, for those who have got medical conditions, support them as a government. The unfortunate thing, of course, is when we get the answer, which is indeed lawful, as you say, your hands are tied. TSC says, I'm an independent commission. What are the practical solutions that we are going to use as a government in terms of ensuring that we get those policies implemented so that our teachers, considering the fact that they are genuinely and have got legitimate expectation from the ministry, what is it that we are going to do? What answers, for example, would we be giving? Because we also ask these questions on their behalf, we push you on their behalf, and we expect to give them responses in terms of what is it that we are able to do and that which we are not able to do. But of course, Honorable CS, we can't tell them we can't do. We will forever be insisting and pushing the ministry to support us. And if it means asking the Teacher Service Commission to come, particularly where I raised that concern, I think this is the moment that we should be able to use the relevant available opportunities for us to get those responses. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Wakili. Senator Wakili, and I think also it goes to the question by Senator Cherargei. As we all know this, as per the standing orders, only the Cabinet Secretary can appear on the floor of the House. But we do have other avenues that you can summon the independent institutions that you intend to question on this matter, and that is through the committees. And I would advise that we take that avenue and put this matter to rest so that the Waziri can proceed to the other questions that are in place. Senator William Chiptumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish also to thank the CS for being able to face the House for the last almost 4 hours. I think we appreciate your answers. Baringo County, Mr. and Baringo North and Baringo South, and also Tiati sub-county. And even when you talk of now employing the 20,000 teachers, in addition to the 35,000 we employed the other day, we still have a problem because those teachers who are either posted or already employed there fear for their lives, and sometimes they tend to not work, feel like working in those sub-counties. This requires what I would call an affirmative action. We have a lot of teachers from Baringo, in Turkana, in Nakuru, in Northeastern, and other parts of the country. What affirmative action, Mr. PS, will you put in place so that the teachers from Baringo who are willing and able and available to work in those in secure areas, like in Baringo North, Baringo South, and Tiatei? Because you talk of having enough teachers, say, in Baringo, but there are schools which completely don't have teachers, 2, 3, 4, because of insecurity. And I think that is the real challenge we have in Baringo. What affirmative action do you have that can help Baringo have enough teachers in those areas which are not secure?
Thank you, Senator. Waziri.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I did say, actually, Baringo and the other northern Kenya counties, we have that program. But I'm happy that the kind of security reports we are now getting from Baringo and North Rift are quite encouraging, because the problems that we used to encounter there before, as a government, we are almost managing those insecurity programs, and progressively as we move on, I think we are kind of restoring law and order in those areas. And I want to make an undertaking to my friend from Baringo that in case we have the local people, actually, I also forgot, I was in West Pokot, the same question. I was with my officer, the County Director of Education Teacher Service Commission, and we did say that the allocation which has been given to Baringo or West Pokot or in Sagi County, we will first give priority to the local people. So that in case, and only in case, we don't find that there are local people who meet the necessary requirements and the qualifications required. That is when they can only recruit from outside. Otherwise, we will look at your location, how many teachers out of the 20,000 that you are supposed to recruit as a county or as a sub-county, may it be Baringo North, Baringo South, and we will encourage and be very happy that the locals apply, and for sure they are the people that will be able to give those particular opportunities. Honorable Speaker, I also want to make an undertaking to the members that progressively the 20,000 we are recruiting, because we have to have replacements to those seeking for transfers come this coming month. I'm sure we will be able to transfer quite a number of teachers, because we will be able to have replacements out of the 20,000 that we are recruiting, because sometimes we find ourselves in a serious situation where you find a school has probably 10 teachers and almost half are applying for transfer out of that particular school. So if you don't have a replacement, it can also cause a problem, because it will mean like you are closing down the school. So I undertake, and Ms. Miwa, I assure you it will be done. I so submit.
Thank you, Waziri. Next question by Senator Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, I've heard your ruling, but I would request that you give us considered opinion, because we'll be facing challenges of independent commission like GEC, Kenya National Human Rights, Teacher Service Commission. So maybe when you retreat to your chambers, give us a direction, because we know there are committees, but we beg for your ruling. Mr. Speaker, there are only two questions in conclusion. Question number 40, could the Cabinet Secretary state the total amount owed by Teacher Service Commission to teacher circles and two trade unions, namely Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education, KUPPET, and the Kenya National Union of Teachers? Number two, Mr. Speaker, why the TSC delayed the remittance of union and circle dues for teachers and for teachers' unions and circles, and could the Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Speaker, provide a timeline for the remittances of the dues? Mr. Speaker, and finally, Mr. Speaker, I forgot maybe in the earlier, the total pending capitation that are still owed by the ministry to schools, both junior secondary schools and public primary school and secondary. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Waziri.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. As we are talking now, the Commission does not owe any outstanding remittances to teachers, SACCOs, KNUT, or KUPPET. As we are aware, the Commission maintains an account with the Central Bank of Kenya, where all third-party transactions are conducted. And once the National Treasury transfers the amounts required to the Commission's Central Bank account, then it is supposed now to also forward the amounts to the three mentioned entities. One such program that we encounter as another put once after a while is exchequer delays, and when that exchequer delay happens, honorable members, honorable Speaker, you know that the first priority is to pay the salaries, and after we pay the salaries, then we come to these other bodies. But I think for the last few months, we have not had a problem, because like in May 2023, we released the money to the bodies. On 8th June, the same payments were done to KNUT and the KUPPET, and also the SACCO payments were done on the 12th of June 2023. So even if there was a delay, it was probably in a week or so. If you engage our unions this time around, particularly KNUT and the KUPPET, they will tell you and confirm to you that unlike before, I think their remittances are almost timely this time. So the amounts paid by the Commission so far to Kupet is 130 million, 949,661, while the amounts paid to KNUT is 160 million, 450,000. And as I've said, normally the delays occasionally when the exchequer is a little bit late, that is when we experience delays, but I must confirm to the Speaker and the honorable members that indeed we are paid all that was outstanding, and as of now there is no amount that has not been paid to the two unions and the SACCO. So I submit.
Thank you, Waziri. Senator Cherargei, do you have a supplementary question, or can we give to another senator?
Mr. Speaker, I can cede to my colleagues.
Thank you. Senator Bugum George.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to refer the CS to Article 36(2) of the Constitution, and I quote, "A person shall not be compelled to join any association of any kind." Mr. CS, we've received complaints from teachers, especially women teachers, and teacher or special needs school being forced and be deducted some amounts without their consent. Are you aware of it, and what are you doing about it?
Waziri.
Honorable Speaker, it is right that nobody is supposed to be forced. Indeed, if it is KNUT, it's voluntary, a teacher must fill a form, and out of that form it must be submitted all the way to Teacher Service Commission, or if it is Kupet, including SACCOs, because whatever amount you indicate that it should be deducted from your salary, that is the amount that is deducted. So I'm not aware of any such case where a teacher has been deducted without his or her consent or knowledge. But if there is such an individual isolated case, kindly bring it to my notice so that we are able to take the necessary action. I so submit.
Thank you. CS Education, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your patience and for spending the whole morning with the Senate, and I thank you also for your answers. And at this point, I would give you leave so that you can resume to your other duties. Thank you very much, Waziri. Honorable Senators, it is now 1:15 p.m., time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, 9th August 2023 at 2:30 p.m.
Good morning to you from wherever you